Goddess smiled when she pushed him off the edge. Kale Arden had expected anger, maybe disappointment, maybe even cold indifference from the divine being he had worshipped for 14 years. What he had not expected was that soft, almost affectionate smile as her hand pressed against his chest and the sacred platform disappeared beneath his feet. For one impossible second, he hung over the abyss. Then gravity took him. Above, white marble pillars framed the radiant figure of Goddess Seraphiel, patron of mankind, keeper of the 7 holy gates, and the divine being Kale had spent his entire adult life serving. Beside her stood the people he had once called family. Commander Varric Holt did not look away. High Priestess Illyra Dane covered her mouth, but not in horror. She was hiding a smile. Cole fell through the clouds. His broken ribs screamed every time he tried to breathe. Blood filled his mouth. Ceremonial armor of the Sunward Order had already been stripped from him before the trial, leaving him in nothing but a torn black undershirt and ruined combat trousers. His hands reached upward anyway, not because he thought someone would save him. Part of him still refused to understand. 14 years. 14 years of fighting monsters beneath Broken City. 14 years of clearing corrupted gates. 14 years of carrying wounded priests out of dungeons while they prayed to a goddess who never once answered Kale directly. 14 years of loyalty. And this was how it ended. Varric's voice drifted down from the platform before the distance swallowed it. Do not take this personally, Arden. Kale almost laughed. The wind tore the sound from his throat. Varric continued, you were used. That was all. Words hurt more than the fall. Kale closed his eyes. Images came back in pieces. Varric dragging him from the ruins of Eastbridge when Kale was 16. Illyra teaching him the old divine alphabet because he had been embarrassed that every other recruit could read temple inscriptions except him. Seraphiel appearing before the entire Sunward Order 5 years later and placing a glowing hand over Kale's heart. Possess a rare soul, she had told him. He had believed her. Everyone had. That blessing had made Kale the first human in centuries capable of entering dead gates, ancient dungeons where divine energy had stopped flowing. He became the Order's key, not its hero, not its champion, its key. He opened what He walked first into places no one else could survive. He found relics. He recovered weapons that made Varric famous. He returned with sacred texts that made Illyra powerful. He unearthed fragments of heaven that strengthened Seraphiel's temples across the continent. And after every mission, the official reports changed. Commander Varric had led the expedition. High Priestess Illyra had deciphered the relic. Goddess had granted victory. Kale Arden's name sat at the bottom. Support rank designated obsolete. He had never complained. That was the part that burned now. He had never complained. The abyss below him opened like a black mouth. Kale forced his eyes open. Far beneath the floating temple, past layers of cloud and drifting shards of ancient stone, waited a wound in the world known as the Godgrave. No hunter had ever returned from it. Not one. He said it was where divine beasts had fallen during the War of Ascension. Varric called it a disposal pit. Seraphiel called it judgment. Joel had heard all 3 descriptions. None mattered anymore. His body struck the first floating ruin. Bone snapped. Pain flashed white. He bounced from cracked stone and spun into dark. The last thing he saw before losing consciousness was the temple above becoming a tiny star in the sky. Then even that disappeared. Kale woke because something was eating him. A wet tearing sound came from his left leg. He opened his eyes. 2 pale creatures crouched beside him. They looked almost human until they turned. Their jaws split sideways across their faces. Black teeth glistened with his blood. Kale did not scream. He had spent too long in dungeons to waste breath on fear. His right hand moved before his thoughts caught up. No sword, no dagger, nothing. Creatures hissed. One lunged. Kale rolled. Guinea exploded through his chest. He grabbed a broken piece of black stone and drove it into the creature's throat. The shard barely penetrated. The monster shrieked and slammed him backward. His spine hit a wall. The second creature came from the side. Kale raised his forearm. Teeth sank into flesh. His vision blurred. He hit the monster again and again and again. Stone shard broke. The creature did not. Kale stared at the remaining jagged piece in his hand. Then at the monster's eye. Come on, the words came out as a whisper. The creature charged. Kale waited. Closer, closer. Mouth opened. He shoved his ruined forearm deeper between its jaws and let it bite. Pain nearly knocked him unconscious, but the monster's head stopped moving for half a second. That was enough. Kale drove the shard through its eye. Creature collapsed. The second one leaped over the corpse. Kale had no weapon left. Strength. No divine blessing. He stared at the thing coming toward him and understood with startling calm that Seraphiel had not thrown him into the Godgrave because she wanted him gone. Thrown him here because she wanted him erased. No body. No funeral. No questions. The monster's claws reached his throat. A sound rang through the darkness. Not a roar. Not thunder. A bell. Clear. Cold. Ancient. Monster froze. Kale froze with it. A line of golden light appeared in front of his eyes. In dozens. They formed word. Divine authority detected. Kale stared. The letters were not written in the language of the modern temples. They were older. Much older. He knew because he had spent years translating dead gate inscriptions for Illyra. His blood went cold. Pre-ascension script. A language supposedly written before Seraphiel and the other 6 gods descended into the world. Another line appeared. Old divine brand located. Kale's breathing stopped. A point of heat burned beneath his sternum. The blessing Seraphiel had given him 14 years ago began to glow. And the light turned black. Kale gasped. Something invisible hooked into his soul. The brand tore free. He screamed. The monsters around him screamed too. A symbol rose from his chest like a burning chain being pulled through flesh. Kale saw it for the first. A tiny golden sun wrapped in 7 silver. Seraphiel's mark. The mark everyone had called a blessing. The system called it something else. Slave seal identified. For several seconds, Kale heard nothing but his own heartbeat. He read the words again. The letters did not change. His hands started shaking. No, another line appeared. Skill functions detected. Growth suppression, skill siphoning, divine energy extraction, memory interference, authority restriction. Kale stopped breathing. The monster in front of him remained frozen in mid-attack. Its claw hung inches from his throat. Kale barely noticed. His entire life rearranged itself inside his head. The rank test that always returned F-rank designated obsolete despite missions no F-rank hunter should have survived. The strange exhaustion after handing relics to the temple, Varric becoming stronger every year. Illyra suddenly displaying techniques Kale had developed alone. Seraphiel's priest telling him his blessing was fragile and must never be examined by foreign healers. Every piece clicked in. Not a blessing, a collar, a divine collar. Kale laughed once. It sounded broken, so that was it. The system continued. Skill removal available. Warning, removal will alert the divine owner. Kale looked upward. There's only an endless ceiling of black crystal and ancient bones. Somewhere far above, Seraphiel believed he was dying. Maybe she was already celebrating. Kale's lips curved. Remove it. The world exploded. Golden fire burst from his chest. Slave seal cracked. For the first time since he was 6, Kale felt in soul. Not metaphorically. Emotionally, he felt it. Something enormous had been compressed inside him for years. Forced into a bottle, a storm chain beneath skin, the seal shattered. Power detonated through the cavern. The monster in front of him vaporized, not burned. blasted apart. The second corpse disintegrated beside it. Cracks raced through the black floor for hundreds of feet. Kale screamed as 14 years of stolen energy surged backward through his body. He saw memories that did not belong to him. Eric standing before a divine altar while streams of blue light flowed from Kale's sleeping body into his sword. Alira copying combat formulas directly from Kale's mind while pretending to heal him after mission. Seraphil watching from behind a curtain of golden fire. His output suppressed, the goddess had said. Alira bowed. He is still growing, then increased the seal. What happens if he notices? Seraphil's smile had been gentle. He will not. The memory shattered. Kale collapsed to his knees. Blood poured from his nose. Turned. Stolen attributes identified. Stolen skills identified. Authority. Recovery protocol beginning. Energy slammed into him again. His shattered ribs shifted. Torn leg twisted back into place. The bite wound on his arm closed. Kale pressed one hand against the floor while his body rebuilt itself. Skull tightened. Bones hardened. His senses expanded. Godgrave changed. Before he had seen darkness, heat, motion, energy. Threads of pale power inside the walls, sleeping creatures beneath the ground, symbols carved into stone farther away than any human eye should reach. A final message appeared, recovery complete. 73% of stolen power remains outside host. Kale lifted his head. Good them. Power was still inside Alira. A second bell rang. The frozen cavern trembled. Displayed a new sequence. Primary compatibility confirmed. Authority class exceeds mortal classification. Assigning temporary human grade. Kale the letters form. Divine SSS-Rank system awakened. For the first time since the betrayal, Kale felt something other than rage. Felt fear. Not fear of dying, fear of what this meant. Full S rank was supposed to be the ceiling of humanity. Only 9 living hunters had ever reached it. Entire nations negotiated. Mummies moved when they moved, and the system had called triple S rank temporary, a human grade. Kale swallowed. What are you? The answer came immediately. Divine inheritance interface. Core rightful authority. Secondary purpose. Destroy illegitimate gods. Kale stared. The cavern seemed to grow colder. He read the final words twice. Seraphil was one of the 7 divine rulers of mankind. Children learned her prayers before they learned mathematics. Kings knelt before her temples. Every hunter license on the continent carried the seal of one of the 7 gods. Calling her illegitimate was not rebellion, it was insanity. Kale should have rejected the have assumed the Godgrave had poisoned his mind. Then another memory surfaced, Seraphil's hand. Smiled, a push. Kale looked at the place where the slave seal had been. Show me everything. The interface shifted. Information poured across his vision. Current classification F rank designate obsolete. Class sealed. Divine authority. Unregistered. Recovered attributes 27. Available functions, authority appraisal, divine skill restoration. Locked functions remained hidden behind dark symbols. Kale focused on the first, authority appraisal. A pulse expanded from the Godgrave answered. Ancient structures lit up beneath the cavern floor. Thousands of inscriptions appeared across walls that had looked blank seconds earlier. Kale stepped back. No way, this was not a natural cave. It was, and he was standing inside what looked like a collapsed temple. Bones covered the ground. Human, some enormous. At the center of the chamber stood a statue with its head missing. Kale approached it slowly. The figure held a sword point down. Its armor was unlike anything used by modern hunters. Go son of the Baron's form and crest. No mark the 7. Only an empty circle over the heart. Kale touched the statue. Divine residue detected. Owner deceased. Consumption permitted. Kale pulled his hand back. Consumption? A new explanation appeared. Divine consumption allows host to absorb abandoned authority from fallen divine entities. Kale looked around at the bone. Godgrave, the place where gods had supposedly died. His heartbeat. Gotta be kidding me. A growl rolled through the ruins. Kale turned. Red eyes opened in the dark. 2 dozens. The creatures that had attacked him were crawling from holes between the broken pillars. Kale counted automatically. 43, maybe more behind. Before today, even a team of rank hunters would have struggled. Kale stood alone, barefoot, recently dead, depending on how generous one wanted to be. The creatures spread out. Pack behavior. Kale recognized it instantly. He had fought similar dungeon predators beneath Blackwater. It would test him first. 3 from the front, 2 from behind. The rest once he was bleeding. One of them hissed. Kale's body moved. Behind it before he realized he had taken a step. The creature's head separated from its shoulders. Kale looked down. Hand was empty. He had cut through bone with the edge of his palm. The remaining creatures stopped. Kale stopped too. He stared at his 20 fingers. The system gave no response. Kale looked at the monsters. For 14 years, he had survived by calculating around weakness. He knew how to bait attack, how to conserve stamina, how to make stronger teammates believe his decisions were their ideas, how to fight with broken weapons, kill monsters he could not overpower. Now his body was faster than his old mind expected. Power made people careless. Varek had taught him that without ever intending to. Kale lowered his center of gravity. All right, the creatures charged. He did not rush them. The first came high. Kale shifted left and struck under its jaw. The skull collapsed. The second aimed for his rib, caught its wrist, twisted, bone snapped. Creature's body as a shield when the third attacked. Claws tore through its packmate. Kale drove both into the wall. Bone cracked. 2 more came from behind. He heard their feet scrape before they moved. Kale ducked, passed over him. He caught its leg. Creature hit the ground hard enough to crater the floor. The other jumped. Kale kicked. Chest caved inward. Silence. Then the entire pack. Kale disappeared into them. Bodies flew. Bones broke. Black blood covered the floor. He did not use a single skill. He did not need one. Every motion felt brutally simple. The creatures looked slow. Not because they were slow. Because he had changed. A claw scraped his shoulder. Kale corrected immediately. Too much confidence. Another monster lunged low. He let it come. Grabbed its neck. Turned. Threw. 3 creatures collided. Kale stepped through them and drove his fist into the ground. The impact sent a shockwave across the chamber. Stone erupted. Every remaining creature fell. Kale stood in the center of a ring of breathing was steady. His heart rate had barely increased. He looked at his fist. No wound, no swelling, nothing. Post-comp performance exceeds recovered body calibration. Recommendation: avoid maximum output until synchronization improves. Kale almost smiled. That was not maximum output, correct? The answer wiped the smile from his face. A slow clap echoed from somewhere above. Kale spun. A man sat on a broken balcony 30 feet overhead. At least Kale thought it was a man. He looked human enough. Silver hair, long coat, pale skin. But his eyes were completely black. Nope. He had one leg crossed over the other as if watching theaters. Interesting. Stranger tilted his head. You have her stink on you. Kale's jaw tightened. Whose? The man grinned. You know whose. Kale said nothing. The stranger jumped. He landed silently, no aura. That concerned Kale more than any overwhelming pressure. Strong hunters leaked energy. Exceptional hunters controlled it. Monsters beyond human classification sometimes showed nothing at all. Kale activated authority appraisal. The system flickered. Target classification unavailable. Target state. Field. Kale's eyes narrowed. The man laughed. Oh, that is priceless. You can see it, can't you? Kale kept his voice flat. My chains. The stranger opened. His black symbols covered his chest. Not hundreds of them. Kale recognized the structure. Different design, same purpose, suppression. Stranger tapped one. Your pretty goddess likes collecting dangerous things. Who are you? Someone she failed to kill. Kale's pulse changed. The stranger noticed. There it is. What? Hope. Kale's expression hardened. You are reading too much into my face. No, I've been down here a very long time. Faces are one of the few things left to read. The stranger walked around him. Kale tracked every step. You thought you were special because she betrayed you. Kale said nothing. That is what they all think. All? The stranger pointed into the darkness. Kale followed his hand. Shapes stood between the ruins. Not monsters, statues, dozens. Maybe hundreds. Human-shaped figures encased in black crystal. Kale had mistaken them for broken pillars. The stranger's voice softened. Champions. Keys. Weapons. He looked back at Kale. People the gods used until using them became dangerous. Kale walked toward the nearest crystal figure. Inside stood a woman wearing armor older than the current empire. Her hands were pressed against the inside of the crystal. Her mouth was open in a silent scream. Kale felt sick. Are they alive? Some. The stranger smiled without humor. Alive is flexible down here. Kale turned. What is this place really? The man's black eyes settled on him. The evidence. Kale waited. Of what? That your 7 beloved gods were never gods. The words hung in the cavern. Kale gave no reaction. The stranger seemed disappointed. No outrage? I was thrown off a temple by one of them today. Fair. What are they? The stranger looked toward the headless statue. Thieves. Kale's mind returned to the system message. Illegitimate gods. Stranger continued. They arrived after the old pantheon fell. They took empty thrones. Claimed dead authorities. Rewrote history. Built churches before anyone could question them. Kale studied it. How do you know? The stranger tapped his chest. Because I watched it happen. Kale's hand curled. That would make him thousands of years old. Stranger saw the calculation. You are doing the math. Trying do not. Numbers become depressing after the first few centuries. Kale ignored the joke. Goon. I am not. Then why tell me any of this? Because I am bored. Kale stared. The man stared back, then laughed. Expression. You really are one of hers. I am not hers. The cavern changed. No. Emotionally, the stranger's smile disappeared. Good answer. Pressure hit Kale. He nearly buckled. The man had not moved, had not raised a hand, not released visible energy. Yet the entire chamber seemed to drop onto Kale's shoulders. His bones groaned. Him flashed. Hostile divine pressure detected. Source exceeds current recovery threshold. Kale forced himself upright. The stranger watched. Most humans kneel. Kale tasted blood. I've done enough kneeling. Kale's vision dark. Stayed standing. Something inside him reacted, not the recovered strength. The system. A dark window opened. Emergency authority available. Divine consumption can target active hostile authority. Kale understood immediately. The stranger was attacking him with divine power, and the system could eat it. Hesitated for less than a second, then accepted. The pressure vanished. Gone. The stranger's eyes widened. Stream of invisible force rushed into Kale. His body ignited. Power flooded his veins. Stranger jumped backward. What did you do? Kale straightened. For the first time, genuine fear crossed the man's face. Tim updated. Foreign authority consumed. Recover attributes increased 31%. Kale looked at his hands. 4% from one attack. Stranger stared at him. Then he started laughing. Not amused laughter. Wild laughter. The kind that came from someone watching fate finally make a joke worth hearing. Oh, Seraphiel. You absolute idiot. Kale did not like the sound of that. What? The stranger lowered his hand. You still don't understand what she threw away. Neither do you. True. The man stepped closer. But I know enough. His expression became serious. That ability should not exist. Kale glanced at the system. It does, and if the 7 discover it, they will tear this continent apart to reach you. They already tried to kill me. No, the stranger's voice sharpened. Posed of you. Kale went still. There is a difference. That landed. Seraphiel had not feared him. Treated him like waste. If she learned he had survived and awakened something capable of consuming divine authority, that would change. Everything would change. Stranger pointed toward the deeper ruins. You have 2 choices. I thought you weren't helping me. I changed my mind. Why? Because if you survive, things become interesting. Kale almost rolled his eyes. What choices? You climb. He pointed upward. Somehow, eventually, you return weak, angry, and stupid. You attack the temple. Seraphiel crushes you. Kale's face remained calm. And the second, you go deeper. The stranger pointed into the blackness behind the headless statue. Darkness there seemed different, thicker, alive. What is down there? Things the 7 buried before your oldest empire had a name. That does not answer me. The stranger smiled again. It doesn't. Kale walked toward the passage. The man blinked. That was fast. You said the first option ends with me dead. It probably does. Then there is one option. The stranger followed. Most people ask about survival odds. Would the answer help? No, then save your breath. The stranger laughed quietly. They moved through the ruins. Deeper Kale went, the more the system reacted. Symbols appeared across walls. Broken altars pulsed beneath layers of... Kale saw enormous skeletons embedded in the stone. One had wings, another had 4 arms. Third looked human except for the crown fused into its skull. Everyone triggered the same message, divine residue detected, but the system refused consumption. Authority degraded beyond safe recovery. Kale hated the word safe. Nothing about this place felt safe. After nearly an hour, the corridor opened into a circular... Rounded it. 6 were broken. 1 remained closed. The intact door was made from white stone. Kale recognized it instantly. The same material as Seraphiel's temple. Stranger stopped. Interesting. You've never seen this? I have seen the room, but not the door. The door was not there. Kale looked at him. You said you've been here for centuries. I have, and a door appeared today, apparently. Kale studied the surface. Sun symbols covered it. At the center was Seraphiel's. His old slave. Anger sharpened. The system displayed a message. Personal prison detected. Kale's eyes narrowed. The stranger moved beside him. You can read something. Kale ignored him. The next line formed. Construct created by Seraphiel. Access requirement. Former branded servant. The stranger whistled. She built something specifically for people like you. Kale reached toward the door. Stranger grabbed his wrist. Wait. Kale looked at his hand, then at him. Stranger released him. Anything your goddess locked down here is not something she wanted walking around. Good, that is not automatically good for us. Kale faced the door. I am not looking for good. The stranger studied him. What are you looking for? Kale thought of Varek, Illyra. Then he thought of every hunter whose name had been erased from reports, every support operative left behind, every servant who had believed divine silence meant they were unworthy. I want the stranger's expression change, not amusement, respect. It was there. Kale placed his hand on the door. Peeves seal symbol lit up, stabbed through his palm. The system reacted. Individual ownership challenge detected. A voice filled the chamber. Seraphil's voice. Kale's blood. Stranger stepped back. The white stone shimmered. A projection formed. Seraphil appeared in front of the door. Not the goddess Kale had seen at the trial. This version wore no ceremonial crown. No flowing white robes. She was dressed in battle armor covered in blood. One wing behind her was missing. Her face was terrified. The recording looked ancient. Seraphil stared directly forward. You are seeing this, then something has gone wrong. Kale's jaw tightened. The projection continued. You were never meant to awaken. The stranger slowly turned toward Kale. Kale did not move. Seraphil's recording flickered. The vessel must remain sealed. The inheritance recognizes him. Terminate him immediately. Kale's stomach dropped. Him, not them. Him. The recording was not about branded servants. It was about Kale. Stranger whispered. How old are you? 29. That recording is older than your bloodline. Kale stared at Seraphil. The projection continued. Cannot be allowed to reclaim the throne. The system erupted with warnings. Identity lock destabilizing. Suppress memory. Ancestry data found. Recovery prohibited at current synchronization. Kale stepped away from the door. His head throbbed. Flashed. A battlefield beneath the red sky. 7 figures kneeling. A blade through someone's chest. Seraphil crying. A throne made of black light. Kale grabbed his skull. The stranger caught his shoulder. Stay awake. Kale shoved him away. I am awake. Not for long. The chamber shook. The door's projection distorted. Her final words echoed through the room. If he remembers his name, we lose everything. Darkness poured through the opening. Not empty darkness. Power. Kale felt the system shake inside his mind. For the first time, the interface seemed almost overwhelmed. A message appeared in trembling golden letters. Divine inheritance source detected. Authority level a measure confirmed. Host identity partially restored. Kale stared at the next line. His name vanished. Name, Kale Arden. The words broke apart. Something else appeared beneath them. A title. Not a rank. Not a class. A title so old the system translated it to the last sovereign of heaven. The stranger went completely silent. Kale looked into the open doorway. Something inside the darkness opened its eyes. 2 enormous points of silver and gave him one final notification. First inheritance trial available. Restore 1 stolen divine authority. Kale thought of the people above. Sitting in Kale's place. Alira wearing stolen skills like jewelry. Seraphil believing the man she had thrown into the abyss was already dead. Breathing became calm. Very calm. The stranger watched his expression. You were thinking about going back. Not yet. Smart. Kale stepped toward the darkness. What changed? Kale glanced over his shoulder. For 14 years he had entered dungeons first so everyone else could survive. For 14 years, they had mistaken sacrifice for weakness. This time, he was entering first for himself. When I returned, Kale said, I don't want Seraphil to recognize what she created. Then he walked through the door. Behind him, the ancient chamber sealed shut. Far above the god grave, inside the highest chamber of the floating temple, goddess Seraphil stopped smiling. The golden cup in her hand cracked. High Priestess Alira looked up. My lady Seraphil stared at the empty space before her. Something had disappeared. A connection she had felt for 14 years. A chain she had never imagined could break. Varek entered the chamber wearing a new sword at his waist. Is something wrong? Seraphil did not answer. For the first time in centuries, the goddess felt something she had almost forgotten. Fear. Far beneath her throne, a system message burned in the darkness. First divine target confirmed Seraphil. The darkness beyond the sealed door did not feel empty. Felt patient. Kale took 3 steps before the stone door slammed shut behind him, cutting off the faint silver glow from the chamber outside. The system disappeared. No golden words. No status display. For the first time since awakening in the god grave, Kale was completely alone. He stopped moving. His eyes adjusted almost immediately, but there was nothing to adjust to. No floor beyond the snooze with his boots. No seat. Only darkness stretching in every direction. Then the silver eyes opened again, much closer this time. Kale did not retreat. The eyes were enormous. Each one was wider than a fortress. A voice moved through the darkness, not loud. It did not need to be. Have you returned? Kale felt the words inside his bones. He looked directly into the silver eyes. I have never been here. Silence. Shifted. A colossal shape moved beyond sight. Chains rattled somewhere in the void. You wear his soul. Kale narrowed his eyes. Whose? The darkness trembled. The king who failed. Kale remembered the system title. The last sovereign of heaven. His pulse remained steady. The answer came instantly. You are remain. Kale hated riddles. Dungeon bosses loved priests loved riddles even more. Spent enough of his life letting powerful beings decide what information he deserved, then explain it. A low sound rolled through the darkness. Kale realized after a moment that the creature was laughing. Command me? I asked a question. You stand before the grave beast of the first throne. That does not answer it. The silver eyes narrowed. Pressure flooded the void. Kale remained standing. Body wanted to bend. His instinct screamed that he was facing something beyond every monster he had ever encountered. But fear no longer carried the same authority over him. Not after Seraphil, not after the seal, not after learning that 14 years of weakness had been manufactured. You are weaker than dust, probably. You possess less than 1/3 of your restored vessel. I noticed. You have no weapon. I noticed that too. You have no divine authority worth naming. Kale looked into the eyes. Then killing me should be easy. The pressure stopped. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then the silver eyes vanished. Light exploded beneath Kale. Dropped into another world. His feet hit stone. Heat struck. A battlefield stretched across the horizon. Broken towers burned beneath a blood-red sky. Thousands of bodies covered the ground. The bodies. Some had wings. Some wore crowns. Some were so large that their corpses had become hills. The center of the battlefield stood a black throne, a man's upon it. Kale could not see his face. Every time he tried, his vision blurred. 7 figures knelt before the throne. Kale recognized one, Seraphil. She looked younger. Her wings were intact. Her armor was cracked. Blood covered her. The man on the throne spoke. You were given authority to protect the lower realm. Seraphil lowered her head. We obeyed. No, the voice from the throne was calm. Coveted. One of the kneeling figures raised his face. A man wearing a crown of blue flame. We only sought freedom. Freedom does not require the slaughter of those who trusted you. Kale stepped closer. You. No one memory or recording. Kale looked up. Tears filled her eyes. Please, the man on the throne stood. The battlefield shook. You asked mercy for yourself. Seraphil, 7 of us. The man descended the steps. I gave you 7 thrones. He stopped before them. You answered with 7 knives. The vision shattered. Kale returned to the dark. Silver eyes waited. Kale said nothing for several seconds. That was him. That was you. Denial changes nothing. Kale clenched his jaw. Memory does not make identity. The creature became silent. Kale continued. If someone lived before me, died, and left something inside my soul, then that matters. He touched his chest. But I am still Kale. The silver eyes remained fixed on him. Interesting. What? He said the same thing. Kale frowned. Who the first time he reincarnated? A chill moved through Kale. First, the darkness shifted. You have died before. Kale forced his mind to remain cold. How many times? Enough, that is not a number. You once demanded precise answers too. Apparently I improved nothing. The creature laughed again. Time Kale could hear insults in it. Recognition, maybe even affection. That was more unsettling than hostility. What is the trial? The silver eyes widened. You accepted. I came through the door. That does not answer the question. Kale almost smiled. Now you know how it feels. The creature went silent. Then the system returned. Golden letters burned across the darkness. First inheritance trial beginning. Objective, survive the guardian. Kale stared at the words. That is vague. The ground exploded. Claw larger than Kale's entire body tore upward. Strike missed his legs by inches. Kale landed and rolled. The darkness had transformed. Stone formed beneath him. Pillars rose. A circular arena appeared around. The opposite side stood a creature shaped like a wolf. If wolves were 30 feet tall and covered in silver armor, chains hung from its neck. Its eyes were the same silver lights Kale had seen in the darkness. The system displayed a warning. Trial Guardian. Urian. Combat restriction active. Divine consumption disabled. Kale stared. Of course. Astarian lowered its head. You depended on consumption immediately. I used it once. You thought about using it twice. Kale did not argue. Charged. Kale moved right. Astarian corrected instant. Kale raised both arms. The impact launched him across the arena. Pillar. Stone cracked around his back. His lungs emptied. Astarian walked toward him. You have power. Kale pushed himself upright. Apparently not enough. Power is not what you lack. Astarian attacked again. Kale ducked beneath the claw. He struck the joint. Nothing happened. He moved behind the beast and kicked the back leg again. Nothing turned. Its tail hit him like a siege weapon. Kale flew. Time he landed on his feet. Barely. Blood ran from his mouth. Astarian watched him. You spent 14 years fighting as a weaker man. Kale wiped the blood away and survived. Exactly. The beast attacked. Kale stopped trying to overpower it. He watched shoulder first. Being left, the right claw would come across. Kale stepped inward instead of away. Claw passed over him. He struck beneath Astarian's jaw, not to hurt it. To redirect the head, the beast's own momentum carried it into a pillar. Stone shattered. Kale moved immediately. 2 steps spun. Kale was already behind the next pillar. The beast crashed through it. Kale watched the debris. A pattern. Astarian always protected its front right leg after turning, not weak. It habit. Kale smiled. There it was. Power made people careless. Apparently divine beasts were not immune. Astarian lunged. Kale let it chase him. One pillar, then another. The arena shook. Debris covered the floor. Kale stayed just outside the claws. His recovered body was faster than any F-rank hunter had the right to be, but Astarian was still faster in a straight line, so Kale stopped giving it straight cut angles. Used broken stone. The massive guardian constantly shift its weight. Astarian growled. You were stalling. No. Kale stepped over a shattered column. I am learning. The beast stopped. Then it smiled. Better. Silver fire erupted across its body. Kale's expression changed. That seems unnecessary. Kale barely saw the movement. A claw hit his chest. His body slammed into the ground. Floor cratered. Pain tore through him. Before he could rise, Astarian's paw pinned him. To remain silent, Kale grabbed the silver armor. It burned his hands. Astarian lowered its massive face. Your enemy will not remain at the same level simply because you have understood him. Kale struggled to breathe. I know. Then adapt. The weight increased. Kale's rib began to crack. His old instincts screamed at him. Find an opening. Escape. Preserve strength. Wait for help. But there was no help. There'd never really been help. Even during Sunward missions, Kale had been the one quietly preventing disasters. Took credit. Illyria took credit. Seraphil took everything else. But Kale had been the one adapting always. He stopped pushing against Astarian. Giving on up? No. Kale closed his eyes. He listened. The arena. The chains. Astarian's breath. Vibration traveling through the stone. The beast shifted slightly. Kale felt it through his spine. He had restored more than muscle. His senses were operating beyond human limits. He had been using them like normal senses. No mistake. Astarian moved its rear leg. Kale felt the pressure change before the attack began. Twisted. The claw meant to crush his shoulder struck empty stone. Kale slipped beneath the beast. Astarian turned. Kale still moved with the rotation and wasted distance. He stayed beneath its center of mass. The giant claws could not reach cleanly. Astarian slammed downward. Kale anticipated it. He jumped onto the foreleg. Ran across the armor, reached the shoulder. Astarian shook violently. Kale grabbed one of the hanging chains. The beast roared. Kale wrapped the chain around his forearm. Got you. Astarian spun. Kale let the momentum throw him. He swung around the beast's neck. Chain tightened. Astarian's own strength pulled it across the armor. Kale planted both feet against the side of its head. Pulled. The chain locked beneath the jaw. Astarian crashed into the arena floor. Kale released before impact. He rolled. The guardian. Kale stood opposite it. Both remained still. Astarian's silver flames faded. Kale blinked. That is it? You expected death? I expected something more dramatic. You survived. I did more than survive. You used my own strength against me. Kale looked at the broken arena. That counts. It does. The system appeared. Inheritance trial completed. Combat synchronization increased. Recovered attribute efficiency improved. Reward selection available. 3 symbols appeared. One resembled a sword. One looked like an eye. One looked like a broken crown. Kale focused on them. Authority of perception. Authority of dominion. Astarian spoke. Choose carefully. Kale studied each one. The sword was obvious. Combat power. The eye sounded useful. Information had kept him alive longer than strength. Crown. Dominion. He remembered Seraphil's recording. Cannot be allowed to reclaim the throne. What does Dominion do? The system answered. Current fragment permits suppression of lower divine commands and resistance to external authority. Kale stopped. To divine commands? Correct. The slave seal. The memory interference. The authority restriction. Kale had spent 14 years controlled because something inside him had been prevented from resisting. He looked at the crown. That one. Astarian's eyes narrowed. You reject direct power. I can gain direct power later in perception. I have survived without perfect information. Kale looked at the broken crown. I am done being commanded. The symbol entered his chest. No explosion. Just one deep heartbeat. Then another. A quiet pressure settled around his soul. The system authority. Dominion fragment acquired. Current master. Animal. Kale raised an eyebrow. Astarian laughed. You wanted honesty. The arena disappeared. Kale returned to the dark chamber. This time a narrow silver path stretched ahead. Astarian's enormous form faded into shadow. Go. Kale looked back. You are saying I guard the inheritance. Then I'll see you again, perhaps. Kale walked away. Astarian called after him. Galardon, he stopped. Do not become him. Kale looked over his shoulder. The silver eyes remained in the darkness. Who the sovereign? Kale said nothing. Astarian continued. He lost everything because he believed being right made him untouchable. Kale remembered the 7 kneeling figure. The knives, the betrayal, noted, then he left. When the sealed white door finally opened again, the silver-haired stranger was sitting on the floor outside. He looked up. You survived. Kale stepped through. Pointed? Deeply the stranger stood, his black eyes moved over Kale, then his expression sharpened. Kale kept walking. Everyone keeps saying that. No, the man followed. I mean the air around you. Kale glanced sideways. Can you see the system? No, then do not worry about it. The stranger laughed. You are becoming annoying. I was always annoying. I can believe that. They returned through the buried city. Kale tested the new authority as they walked. Dominion was not a skill in the normal sense. There was no button, no command word. Felt more like a second posture. Away his soul stood. When he focused on the stranger's suppression seals, Kale could feel the foreign command woven through them. Kneel. Obey, remain. Do not ascend. Hundreds of orders layered together. He stopped. Stranger turned. What? Kale looked at his chest. Your seals. The man's expression cooled. What about them? They are commands, obviously. No, Kale stepped closer. I can feel the exact commands. The stranger went still. Kale raised one hand. Reacted. External divine command detected. Dominion interaction available. Warning. Current mastery insufficient for full removal. Kale read carefully. Partial disruption possible. Stranger's black eyes narrowed. What are you doing? Testing something on me? You followed me into a god grave. That does not mean I volunteered. Kale touched one seal. The symbol burned. Command entered his mind. Remain bound. Kale felt something inside him answer. The seal cracked. The stranger collapsed to one knee. Kale stepped back. For the first time, real energy erupted from the man. The entire corridor shook. Black wind tore through the ruin. Stone lifted from the floor. Kale raised an arm against the pressure. Stranger stared at the cracked seal on his chest. You broke it. One. Do you know how long I have tried to break one? No, 600 years. Kale lowered his arm. The stranger slowly looked up. Usual smile was gone. What are you? Kale thought of Asterion. What? A king who failed. A vessel. A a man thrown away by a goddess. I am still working on that. The stranger touched the cracked mark. Energy pulsed through his body. Black eyes changed. For 1 second, silver appeared around the pupils, then vanished. Good. Break the others. Kale shook his head. No. The stranger stared. No, I cannot. You broke that one partially. Kale looked at the remaining seals. The system warned me. The system. The stranger repeated the word slowly. Kale regretted saying it. The man smiled. So there is an interface. Relax. I cannot see it. Good. Break another. No. The stranger stepped closer. You do not understand what these seals are. I understand enough. You understand nothing. Kale met his gaze. And you are unstable. The stranger stopped. Excuse me? One broken seal released enough pressure to damage the corridor. Kale gestured around them. If I remove more without knowing what you are, I could be freeing something worse than Seraphiel. The stranger stared at him, then laughed. Not loudly, almost approvingly. I trusted people for 14 years. Fair. The man adjusted his coat. Good, then perhaps introductions are overdue. Kale waited. My name is Lucien Vale. Kale. Lucien raised an eyebrow. You know it? Everyone knows it. That name existed in history books. Not imperial history. Vale, the Black Saint, founder of the First Hunter Academy. Commander of the Night Legion, executed for attempting to assassinate a divine envoy nearly 700 years ago. Kale studied him. Supposed to be executed. Lucien smiled. I was, publicly. Excellent ceremony. They displayed your body. Not mine, Kale sighed. Of course, Lucien looked almost cheerful. History became very creative after I disappeared. You tried to kill a divine envoy. I succeeded. Kale looked at him. Lucien shrugged. They omitted that detail. The envoy was not divine. Lucien tapped one of his seals. He was a parasite wearing stolen authority. Kale thought about the seven gods, the same kind of thief, much smaller. Seraphiel imprisoned you. Eventually, Lucien's expression darkened. I spent decades hunting creatures connected to the seven. He became inconvenient. Why did she not kill you? Lucien looked toward the deeper god grave. She tried. That answer was enough. They continued. Kale learned quickly that the god grave did not obey normal geography. Corridors moved, appeared where walls had been. Some doors opened into places miles away. Lucien knew many paths. People began using authority appraisal constantly. At first, it exhausted him. The strain decreased. Hidden inscriptions' energy trails became easier to distinguish. Covered nests of godgrave creatures before they could ambush them. He found pools of condensed divine residue hidden beneath broken altars. Most were too corrupted for consumption. You were not. The first usable fragment came from a dead spear embedded in a giant skeleton. A banned authority detected. Consumption permitted. Kale placed his hand on it. Golden energy flowed from the spear. The weapon disintegrated. Power entered Kale. Recovered attributes increased 32%. Lucien whistled. You really are eating divine residue apparently. That should kill you. It has not. Yet Kale looked at him. You are extremely encouraging. I have been imprisoned for centuries. My social skills suffered. They kept moving. Kale found another then another, 33%, 34%. Changes were subtle but undeniable. His steps became lighter, his reactions he could sense expanded. But he remembered Asterian's warning. Power without adaptation was useless. Kale trained while traveling. He deliberately limited his output, used weaker strike, focused on precision. When Godgrave predators attacked, he fought without divine consumption. Lucien noticed. Could kill those faster. I could, then why not? Because fast is not the same as controlled. Lucien smiled. That sounds annoyingly mature. It sounds alive. By the time they reached the outer ruins again, Kale had killed more than 100 creatures. Not one had touched him during the final 30. System finally displayed a new message. Body synchronization stabilized. Current recovered attributes. 35%. Kale looked upward through a crack in the buried city. Far above, faint light filtered down. Lucien followed his gaze. You are thinking about the surface. Yes, already I need information. You need power. I need both. Lucien leaned against a broken pillar. Seraphiel senses you, she will act. She already sensed the seal break. Then she is looking. Kale nodded, which means staying here forever only gives her time to prepare. Lucien studied him. You have a plan. Part of one. Tell me no. Lucien smiled. I am starting to understand why people betrayed your previous incarnation. Kale ignored him. The plan was simple in concept, complicated in execution. Could not return as Kale Arden. Kale Arden was dead. That was useful. The Sunward Order would divide his property. Varek would absorb his remaining combat. Lyra would search his quarters for anything she had missed. Seraphiel would investigate the broken slave seal. They believed they had won. Kale wanted them to keep believing it. He needed a way out of the Godgrave that did not lead directly beneath the floating temple. Lucien had an answer. There is an old gate. Where? West. How far? Distance is unreliable here. That is not useful. 2 days if the ruins behave, and if they do not, 2 months. Kale stared. Lucien shrugged. Ancient divine architecture. They found the gate after 3 days. The ruins had been moderately cooperative. It stood beneath a collapsed tower. Unlike modern dungeon gates, there was no swirling blue portal. The arch covered in dead symbols. Kale touched it. Authority appraisal activated. Transit structure detect destination lower realm. Regional location unavailable. Lucien looked over his shoulder. Good enough? Kale nodded. Better than the temple. The gate required energy. Lucien could not activate it. His seals prevented contact with divine. Kale placed both hands against the arch. The newly restored Dominion fragment reacted. Stone symbols lit. The air inside the arch twisted. A forest appeared. Kale had not realized how much he missed wind that did not smell like blood. Stared through the gate. He did not move. Kale noticed. Coming? Lucien looked down at his seals. I cannot cross. Kale frowned. The gate rejects you. The prison does. Kale looked at the cracked seal. Lucien smiled faintly. I told you. Remains. I will come back. Lucien laughed. Do not make promises to prisoners. It is not a promise. What is it? A calculated possibility. Much warmer. Kale stepped toward the gate. Lucien's voice stopped him. Kale. He turned. The Black Saint's expression was serious. If you find descendants carrying the veil name, do not tell them what I became. Kale studied him. What did you become? Lucien looked down at the hundreds of divine seals. Something I am not sure should leave this place. Kale remembered his own refusal to free him. Then I will decide when I understand it. Lucien laughed. Practical. Kale crossed the gate. Cold air hit his face as he stood in a forest. Scattered from nearby branches, the portal vanished behind him. Kale remained still. He listened. Water to the east. Road traffic somewhere south. No monsters nearby. Pressure. He looked down at himself. Torn-clothes bloodstains, barely recognizable. He looked like someone who had crawled out of a grave, which was not entirely inaccurate. Kale walked toward the road. Several hours later, he saw a wooden sign. Well, Kale knew that a frontier city more than 800 miles from the floating temple. Perfect. By sunset, he reached the outer check. 2 guards stood beneath the city wall. Neither wore sunward colors. Look. One guard looked Kale over. You lose a fight? Kale glanced at his clothes. Something like identification? Kale expected the question. Hunter license had been confiscated before the trial. His civilian identification would flag him as deceased soon if it had not already. I was attacked on the northern road, the guard sighed. Bandits, no monsters? Yes, lice destroyed. The second guard looked skeptical. What rank? Kale answered immediately. F rank designated obsolete. Both guards relaxed. Not because they trusted him, because no one feared an F rank hunter. Kale almost appreciated the first guard pointed toward a small office. Temporary entry registration. Get checked by Hillier before you will. Kale entered Westmere. No alarms sounded. Divine lightens. No priest. For the first time in 14 years, Kale walked through a city without Seraphil's brand inside his soul. It felt strangely quiet. He found a cheap inn near the western market. The owner barely looked at him after Kale paid with 2 old silver coins Lucien had found in the ruins. The coins were ancient. Fortunately, silver remained silver. Kale locked the room. Then he sat beside the window and finally opened the system. Status. Golden letters appeared. Name. Kale Arden. Public classification. Rank designated obsolete. 35%. Divine authority. Dominion for available function. Authority appraisal. Divine consumption. Skill rest. Kale focused on skill restoration. The interface changed. Dozens of names. Skills he remembered developing. Skills he had believed were incomplete. Skills he had forgotten entirely. They were marked stolen, some sealed, some damaged. Goatley caught his attention. Silent step. A movement technique Kale created at 19. Valera had told him it was unstable. 2 years later, Varric had begun using an almost identical technique name. Kale's jaw tightened. Sure. Skill restoration available. Cost recovered energy. Proceed. Heat moved through his legs. Memories return. Training alone at night. Adjusting weight. Reducing. Changing breathing. Then Alira's hands against his temples during a healing session. A flash of gold. Memory disappearing. Kale opened his eyes. His anger remained. But it was different now. Cleaner, he stood. Took 1 step. No sound. Not quiet. The floorboard did not creak. Air barely shifted. Gislin's step restored. Kale smiled small. Cold. Varric had been using a stolen imitation. Kale now had the original. Slept for 4 hours. At dawn, he visited the Westmere Hunter Hall. It was smaller than the Capital branch. Less marble. More practical. Hunters crowded around. Clerks shouted gate assignments. Kale pulled his hood lower. He needed money. Information. And access to dungeon cores. The easiest path to all 3 was the same thing he had been doing. His clerk glanced at his temporary papers. F rank designated obsolete. She gave him a sympathetic look. Contracts require E rank minimum. We have carrying work. No corpse processing? No. The clerk frowned. What are you looking for? Kale looked at the board. Low priority dungeon work. She laughed. Cannot enter alone. I know. A voice came from behind him. He can join us. Kale turned. A young woman stood there wearing dark green armor. Short brown hair, spear across her back. No temple in. Clerk looked surprised. Mira, your team is C rank. I know. You do not need an F rank porter. I need someone who can read old gate script. Kale's attention got sharp and Mira looked at him. You can read it? Some. The clerk shook her head. He did not list inscription work. Kale answered. Mira smiled. Kale said nothing. She held out her hand. Mira's soul. Kale looked at it. Oh, Kale. No surname. She did not ask. That alone made him like her more than most priests he had known. We found an unregistered ruin inside a low-grade gate yesterday. Mira released. The writing is older than standard temple script. Why not ask a priest? We did. Her expression flattened. They wanted ownership rights before translating 1 sentence. Kale almost laughed. That sounds familiar. Mira tilted her head. Dislike priests? I dislike expensive translations. Good answer. She pointed toward 3 hunters waiting nearby. Our team clears the monsters. You read the walls. A hazard bonus if what you translate helps. Kale looked at her. Equal? Yes. For an F-rank interpreter? Mira frowned. If your work matters, why would your rank change the payment? Kale stared at her for a moment longer than intended. 14 years. 14 years of being told support work counted less. Relics recovered because of his translations became Verexteries. Saved through his decisions came Seraphil's miracles. Mira looked slightly uncomfortable. Is something wrong? No. Kale looked away. 20 minutes. The dungeon was exactly what Kale needed. Small. Ignored. Far from the central temples. Mira's team consisted of 4 people including her. Khat, Nessa, healer. None treated Kale like dead weight. Treated him like a specialist. The difference was almost disturbing. Inside the gate, Kale deliberately slowed himself. The monsters were E-rank bone crawlers. He could have killed the entire dungeon barehanded. Instead, he stayed behind Darren. Translated inscriptions. Warned them about traps. They listened every time. At the 3rd chamber, Kale stopped. Symbols covered a sealed wall. Pre-ascension. His system activated. Divine structure detected. Kale kept face neutral. Mira approached. Can you read it? Part of it. What does it say? Kale studied the inscription. The visible translation was simple. The false sun feeds on borrowed souls. His blurra noted. Good. Old religious warning. About what? Kale looked at the sun carved above the doorway. Seraphil symbol, not identical. Gruder. Something people were afraid of. Tomas laughed nervously. Full. Kale touched the wall. Authority appraisal revealed another layer. Hidden text appeared. Where the false sun shines, the Chain King sleeps. Then another 7 thieves divided his heart. Kale stepped back. This was not right. The Godgrave was connected to this ruin, and the ruin was hundreds of miles away. Mira watched him. You found something else. Kale looked at her. Most people would have demanded answers. She simply waited. Kale chose his words carefully. There is a hidden chamber. Darren raised his shield. Monster? Parabri smiled. Treasure. Kale almost smiled back. Usually, they opened the wall. Inside was a narrow tenor floated a tiny golden crystal. The system reacted immediately. Stolen divine residue detected. Source connection identif heartbeat slowed. Connection. Seraphiel. He stared at the crystal. Not abandoned. Not dead authority. A live connection. A fragment linked directly to the goddess. Toward it, Kale raised one hand. Do not touch. She stopped instantly. No argument. No arrogance. Nessa looked concerned. We report it? Kale thought of the temple. If reported, priests would arrive. The crystal would return to Sarah. Kale would lose an opportunity. He needed to know whether divine consumption could take power from a living god without revealing him. The system answered before he asked. Some consumption. Risk of detection. Low. Kale almost laughed. Low was not zero. Good. He walked toward the crystal. Mira spoke. Kale, I can neutralize it. You are an interpreter, mostly. She stared. Kale placed his hand on the crystal. Divine consumption activated. Golden light entered his palm. Far away, somewhere beyond mortal sight, something reacted. Kale felt a pulse, a connection. Seraphiel. Not her full presence, just a thread. The goddess sensed something touching her power. Kale consumed faster. The crystal cracked. Energy rushed in. Stolen divine residue recovered. Recovered attributes increased. 37 additional function unlocked. Divine masking. Kale's eyes widened slightly. The crystal dissolved. Mira stared at his empty hand. You do. Kale turned, destroyed it. With your hand? Old inscription technique, Tomas whispered. That was definitely not inscription work. Mira did not laugh. He looked at Kale differently now. Not fierce. Did not push. We should leave. Kale nodded. Yes. They exited the dungeon without incident. Hunter Hall. Mira divided the reward exactly as promised. Kale received the same hazard bonus as everyone else. He looked at the coins. You expected less. Yes. Why? Kale thought about Vurek, Alira. 14 years of reports. Spira leaned against the counter. We run again in 3 days. Kale looked at her. You are inviting an F-rank hunter? I am inviting a useful person. The words hit harder than they should have. Kale closed his hand around the payment. I will be there. Mira smiled. Good. As she walked away, the system displayed a small message. Ali compatibility detected. Kale frowned. That is new. No explanation followed. Returned to the inn, locked the door. Activated divine presence changed instantly. The system showed his restored energy compressing inward. To outside detection, he became what everyone expected. Almost empty. Frank designated obsolete. Kale smiled. This ability was more valuable than another attack skill. Seraphiel could search for power. Eric could search for anomalies. Alira could compare hunter records. They would find nothing. Kale opened the system again. Show connection to Seraphiel. A thin golden line stretched upward through the ceiling across impossible distance. The fragment had left a trace. Kale could feel the goddess on the other side, faint searching. Vicious. Then a message appeared. Remote authority mapping available. Kale stared. The line brightened. The system began tracing the network. Dozens of branches appeared. Then hundreds, temples, relics, blessings, hunters. Seraphiel's power was everywhere. But some connections were thicker. One led toward the capital, one toward the floating temple. Two burned especially bright. The system identified. Siphon host detected. Varric Holt. Kale's expression went cold. Line pulsed. Secondary siphon host detected. Kale sat quietly. There it was. Stolen power still lived inside them. The system offered a new option. Recovery possible through direct contact. Kale closed the display. Not yet. Varric believed Kale was dead. Alira believed Kale was dead. Seraphiel. Kale intended to preserve that imbalance. To gather strength. Restore skills. Explores hidden ruins. Seraphiel's network, and when he returned he would not attack the temple. That was what an angry survivor would do. He would attack the structure beneath it, the power, the lie, stolen authority, the worship, everything keeping Seraphiel untouchable. The floating temple. High Priestess Alira stood inside Kale's old room. Drawers lay open. Books covered the floor. Varric watched from the doorway. Find anything? No. Alira's voice was irritated. He kept records. Burn them. That is not what concerns me. Varric crossed his arms. Alira lifted one of Kale's notebooks. The pages were blank. Varric frowned. He wrote in those constantly. I know. Hidden ink? I checked. Alira looked toward the window. He erased them before the trial. Varric's expression hardened. A golden flame appeared behind them. Both immediately knelt. Seraphiel materialized inside the room. Calm. Too calm. Alira lowered her head. Kale ignored her. She looked at Kale's empty bed. Search every gate within 1,000 miles. Varric looked up. The lady quietly. Alira's eyes widened. You believe he survived? Seraphiel turned. For a fraction of a second, something ugly moved behind the goddess's perfect expression. I believe something survived. Varric touched Kale's stolen sword. If Arden is alive, I will finish it. Seraphiel looked at him. You? Varric froze. Goddess stepped closer. You possess less than a tenth of what was taken from him. Varric's face drained. Alira looked up sharply. Kale realized she had said too much. Silence filled the room. Then the goddess smiled. Behind him. Far away in Westmere, Kale opened his eyes. The system had detected a change in the divine network. A new warning appeared. Divine target has begun active search. Kale looked through the inn window at the city below. Mira was crossing the market with her spear over one shoulder. Ordinary hunters argued over contracts. Merchants opened stalls. No one knew a goddess was searching for a dead man. Kale touched the restored dominion fragment inside his soul. Then he looked at the network of golden lines only he could see. Seraphiel believed she was hunting him. She had not realized the direction of the hunt had already reversed. A message appeared. New priority target detected beneath Westmere. Unknown divine authority. Classification exceeds Seraphiel-linked residue. Kale's expression changed. The signal came from below the city. Deep below, too deep for any registered dungeon, and unlike every dead fragment he had found in the Godgrave, this one was moving. He displayed one final line. Warning, target is awake. Kale did not sleep again. Beside the window until the first light touched Westmere's rooftops, watching the golden thread beneath the city pulse like a buried heartbeat. The unknown authority moved once every few minutes, not randomly. Circled, slowly, deliberately. Whatever lived beneath Westmere's was not trapped, it was waiting. Kale closed the system display and stood. The divine masking around him tightened automatically. To every hunter passing beneath the inn window, he remained exactly what his temporary papers claimed. F-rank designated obsolete, unimportant. Dead men had certain advantages. He intended to enjoy them while they lasted. A knock came from the door. 3 short. Mira's voice. Kale, he opened it. Mira stood in the hallway wearing half her armor and carrying 2. You look terrible. I have looked worse. I believe that. She handed him 1 cup. Kale smelled bitter coffee. He took it. Why are you here? Our next contract change. You said 3 days. I did. Mira stepped into the room. Then a section of the eastern sewer collapsed. Kale waited. She looked annoyed. Apparently there is a dungeon under the city. That got his attention. Registered? No. How deep? Kale drank once. Who found it? Maintenance workers. Alive too. And the others? Mira's silence answered. Kale set the cup down. The moving divine signal pulsed beneath his feet. Who has jurisdiction? The Westmere Hunter Hall. Not the temple? Not yet. Yet, priests arrived this afternoon. Of course they did. Mira folded her arms. The hall wants an early survey before the church declares everything sacred and locks us out. Why me? Old writing. Kale almost laughed. There was always old writing. Mira continued. The collapsed passage has inscriptions everywhere. How many teams? 3 ranks, mostly C rank. Gone. Kale looked toward the floor. The unknown authority moved again. Closer this time. Captain, Ronan Thorne. Kale knew the name, not personally. Ronan had served in the northern campaigns. B-rank shield breaker, known for surviving a dungeon collapse that killed half his company. More importantly, Ronan had refused a temple sponsorship after that made him useful. Kel picked up his coat. I am coming. Mira blinked. That was easy. I like sewers. No one likes sewers. Then I am mysterious. Mira stared at him. You are getting funnier. I am concerned too. They left. Westmere's eastern district was already sealed when they arrived. Kind of crowded around a crater in the street. Stone had collapsed inward, exposing an old staircase descending beneath the city. The municipal sewers ended 50 feet below. Continued to far beyond them. Kale stopped at the edge. The system activated on its own. Unknown divine authority detected, distance decreasing. The golden signal beneath Westmere pulsed. Something below noticed him. Kale felt. Faint pressure touched the edge of his divine masking, then withdrew. Mira glanced at him. You okay, fine. A broad man in dark steel armor approached Ronan Thorne. He was older than Kale, gray beginning at the temples. A jagged scar crossed his lower lip. His shield looked as if someone had forged a city gate into something port. Ronan glanced at Kale's temporary badge. Then Mira, this the interpreter, yes. Ronan looked back at Frank designated obsolete. Ronan's eyebrows lifted slightly. Mira hid a smile. Ronan did not. I was told you neutralized a relic yesterday. Kale looked at Mira. She immediately raised both hands. I said nothing. Ronan grunted. The hallmaster heard from Tama. Kale, of course, Tomas talked. Ronan continued. Do I need to know anything? I can read some older scripts. Can you fight enough to run away? Ronan studied him for several seconds, then nodded. Stay behind the front line. Kale almost respected him immediately. No lecture, no performance. Construction based on the information he had. The survey team entered the staircase. 14 hunters. 3 healers, 2 scouts, 1 interpreter who could probably kill everyone present before they understood he had moved. Kale stayed in the middle. The first inscriptions appeared after the second landing. Mira raised her lantern. Language? Kale touched the stone. Authority appraisal revealed 3 layers. The top layer was recent. Roughly 400 years old, a warning left by early Westmere settlers. The second layer was far older. Pre-ascension. 7 hands sealed the devourer. Kale's stomach tightened. Then the hidden layer appeared. Only the system could see it. The devourer does not sleep. Kale removed his hand. Ronan watched him. Bad, yes. Specific? Kale considered how much to say. There's something sealed below. Ronan's expression did not change. Monster? I do not know. Divine? Kale looked at him. It was a sharper question than expected. What makes you ask? Ronan tapped the inscription. Churches erase words they dislike. Old dungeon writers usually carve them deeper. Kale looked at him for a second. Ronan grunted. So divine? Possibly. Mira shifted her spear. They continued. The staircase descended far beyond Westmere's foundations. 20, 30, no one spoke much. Air changed. Less sewer. More stone. Then the first corpse appeared, one of the missing maintenance workers. His body lay against the wall. Go blood. His face looked peaceful. Ronan knelt. Healer. Nessa moved forward. She touched the man's chest. No trauma. Poison? No. Magic? Maybe Kale activated authority. A gray shadow clung to the corpse. Divine essence extraction detected. Kale's jaw tightened. Something had emptied the man without touching his body. Mira saw his expression. What? Do not touch the walls. Stopped. Ronan stood. Kyle pointed at the corpse. Something removed his life through contact. Nessa pulled her hand back instantly. Ronan looked at her. Feel anything? No. Kale stepped closer. The gray residue moved, not toward Nessa. Toward him. Divine consumption reacted. Corrupted authority detected. Kale smiled faintly. At least the system had learned to warn him before offering horrible ideas. They left the corpse. The tunnel widened. The black stone replaced brick. The inscriptions became more frequent. Kale translated aloud only what the team needed. Do not break the silver seals. Do not answer voices behind closed doors. Do not follow footsteps that match your own. Nero looked at him. That last one feels specific. It usually is, Darren muttered. I hate ancient people, Tomas whispered. You're probably saying the same thing about whoever built this. Ronan raised one fist. Everyone stopped. Ahead stood the black gate. 30 feet tall, no hinges, no handle. 7 chains crossed its surface. Each chain ended in a different divine symbol. Cole recognized Sarah, the blue flame crown, the silver crescent, the thorn. 4 others he had seen only in Temple Ma 7 rulers. Mira lowered her voice. Oh, that looks official. Kale approached. The Sistopes Fold divine seal detected. Killing Dominion interaction available. Kale stared. Ronan joined him. Can you open it? Yes. Ronan's answer came immediately. Then do not. Kale looked at him. Ronan shrugged. If 7 gods lock something away, opening it with 14 people seems ambitious. Kale almost smiled. That is the first intelligent thing anyone has said near a divine seal. Mira looked offended. I told you not to touch the glowing crystal yesterday. Second intelligent thing. Ronan turned to the scouts, mapped the chamber. You would draw. A sound came from behind the gate. One knock. Another knock. Slow, heavy. Tomas raised his bow. Please tell me. Kale listened. Third knock. Divine authority beneath Westmere moved. It was directly behind the gate. Then a voice came through. Kale. Every muscle in his body tightened. Mira turned. Did that thing say your name? Kale did not. Gate shook. One of the 7 chains cracked. Golden light burst across the chamber. The hunters raised weapons. Ronan shouted. Back. The first chain snapped. Second. Kale felt Dominion react violently. The power behind the gate was not breaking the seals alone. It was using him. His presence was weakening them. Everyone Lyra stared. The third chain shattered. Ronan did not hesitate. Move. Hunters ran. Aid. Kale grabbed her arm. Go. She looked at it. You know what this is. No, it knows you. That is exactly why you should go. Fourth chain. The chamber trembled. Mira pulled her arm free. I am not leaving you alone. Kale's expression hardened. This is not your fight. You joined my team for 1 dungeon. Still counts. For a second, Kale did not know what to say. People were not supposed to do that. Not for him. Not without wanting something. Ronan returned from the tunnel. He looked between them. Both you move. 5th chain. Kale felt the seal collapsing. Too late. The 6th chain broke. The 7th Seraphiel's sun symbol burned brighter than the rest. Then a new presence entered the chamber, not behind the gate, above them. Kale looked up. Golden light gathered in the air. Projection formed. White robes, golden hair, perfect face. Seraphiel Mirror dropped to one knee instantly. Ronan did not. Stood frozen but upright. Every other hunter stopped in the tunnel. The goddess looked directly at Kale. Did not recognize him, not immediately. Divine masking work. Projection scanned the chamber. Then she saw the failing seal. Fear crossed her. Ronan bowed his head slightly. My lady, we are withdrawing. Not you. Seraph raised one hand. She pointed at Kale. Silence. Kale felt the goddess authority strike his divine masking. The disguise trembled. Seraphiel narrowed her eyes. Mira looked between them. Ronan shifted his shield. Changed. Recognition. Not complete. But enough. Remove your hood. Kale did not move. Divine command rolled through the chamber. Yes. Several hunters collapsed. The order entered Kale's soul. Remove your hood, Dominion answered. No. Command shattered. Seraphiel's eyes widened. Kale slowly lifted, pulled the hood down himself. The goddess stopped breathing. Mira stared. Ronan looked confused. Seraphiel whispered. Impossible. Kale. The word is becoming popular. Mira looked at him. You know the goddess? Seraphiel ignored her. Kale, there was no warmth now. Ishin, gentle funds, only horror. His eyes moved toward Kale. Recognition finally arrived. He had seen the death announcement. Yet everyone. Kale Arden, sunward, traitor. By divine judgment. Seraphiel's voice sharpened. You died. Kale looked at her projection. You watched. The seventh chain cracked. Seraphiel turned toward the gate. Fear deepened. What have you done? Nothing yet. You opened the prison. I touched a wall. Do you understand what is behind that gate? No. Seraphiel's expression twisted. Then for once in your miserable life, obey me. Kale felt Mira tense beside him. The words hit something old. 14 years old every mission. Every stolen report. Every blessing. Every time Kale had lowered his head because the goddess knew better. He looked at Seraphiel. No. The final chain shattered. The black gate opened. Darkness poured through. Not smoke, not shadow. River of black light. Hunter screamed. Ronan slammed his shield into the ground. Beamy. The darkness struck. His barrier shattered instantly. Kale moved. Dominion erupted, not as an attack, as an order. Stop. The word left his mouth. The black light froze. Every person in the chamber stared. Kale stared too. The system exploded with messages. Dominion resonance detected. Unknown divine authority responding. Confirmed warning. Response exceeds current mastery. The frozen darkness pulled backward. A figure walked through the gate, barefoot. Human-shaped, thin, almost skeletal. Black chains wrapped around his arms, neck, waist, and legs. His hair reached the floor. His eyes, not Seraphiel's warm temple gold, a harsher color. Stranger looked at Kale, then smiled. Kneel. Kale felt the command hit him. Dominion ought back. His knees bent an inch, then stopped. Stranger's smile widened again. Power doubled. Stone cracked beneath Kale's feet. Collapsed. Ronan fell to one knee. Kale remained standing. Blood ran from his nose. The system flashed. External authority identified. Devouring Dominion. Classification unavailable. The chain man walked closer. You are smaller. Kale wiped the blood from his lip. Everyone says that. The stranger laughed. Then looked at Seraphiel. The goddess projection had gone pale. No, the chain man tilted his head. Hello, thief. Seraphiel stepped back. Kale watched carefully. For the first time since meeting her as a child, he saw the goddess without control. He looked terrified. Your seal held until your servant arrived. Seraphiel looked at Kale with naked hatred. He is not my servant. The chain man grinned. Seraphiel raised both hands. Golden fire flooded the chamber. Run. The command was directed at everyone. Mira and the others turned immediately. Ronan resisted for a second, then moved. Kale stayed. Mira grabbed his sleeve. Kale, go. He looked at her. Trust me once. She froze. Kale almost regretted saying it. Trust had become Mira searched his face and released him. Kale said nothing. Ronan was the last to leave. He stopped at the tunnel entrance. If this gets worse, I am collapsing the passage. Reasonable. Ronan disappeared. Seraphiel watched them go. Then looked at. You have no idea what you released. Kale faced the chained man. Seraphiel laughed once. Sharp. Be leaving. You still think information will save you. It usually helps. The chained man raised one hand. The remaining fragments of the sevenfold seal flew. He closed his fists. They dissolved. Power entered his body. Reacted. Divine consumption detected. Kale's eyes narrowed. The chained man noticed. Can see it. Seraphiel's expression changed. What? The man looked delighted. He has the inheritance. Seraphiel turned toward Kale. Chamber exploded with golden fire. No warning, no speed. No divine command directly. Kale activated silent step. Body vanished from where he stood. The fire erased the wall behind him. Seraphiel Kale appeared at her side. He struck. His fist passed through light. Of course. Projection. Seraphiel smiled. Cannot touch me. Kale looked at the golden thread running through her projection. Authority appraisal revealed the connection. Not her real body, but her authority. That was divine consumption activated. Kale screamed. Golden light ripped projection into Kale's hand. The system flashed. Direct divine connection established. Recovery possible. Kale pulled harder. Power flooded him. 38%. Claimed 40%. Seraphiel tore the projection apart herself. The golden image vanished. Silenced. The chained man stared at Kale, then started laughing. You consumed her. Part of her. Do it again. Kale looked at him. Why? Because I want to watch. That is not a reason. It is an excellent reason. The system updated. Covered attributes 40%. Threshold reached. Skill restoration capacity expanded. Divine masking improved. Dimin fragment evolved. Kale felt the change immediately. The chamber sharpened. Still every command embedded in the chain man seals. 7 sources, 7 gods. But beneath them was something else. A command older than the 7. Kale looked at him. What are you? The man smiled. Your executioner. Kale's hand moved toward his chest. Stranger continued. Or I was. Kale said nothing. Before the 7 betrayed you, you created me for one purpose. To kill me? To kill you if you became what they feared. Kale stared. The man bowed mockingly. Orin, the name triggered the system. Identity match confirmed. Throne eater, former divine execution weapon creator. Last sovereign of heaven. Kale exhaled slowly. Of course. Orin laughed. You remember? Kale looked at the chains. Why did they imprison you? Because after they murdered you, they needed someone to blame. Kale thought of the old inscriptions. 7 hands sealed the devourer. They called you the devourer. They were. Orin opened his mouth slightly. For one instant, Kale saw darkness behind his teeth, not a throat, a void. Feared I would consume the authorities they stole. Kale's pulse slowed. The authority stolen from me, from him. Kale's expression sharpened. Orin smiled. You insist on the distinction. Orin raised one chained hand, then prove you or not. The attack came instantly. Black light formed into a spear. Kale moved. The spear followed. He changed direction. Followed again. Kale activated silent step at full speed. The chamber spear curved after him, tracking authority. He could not outrun it. Kale stopped. Turned. Dominion. Spear cracked. Not enough. It continued. Kale caught it. Black energy burned through his palms. Divine consumption activated automatically. Though Orin's eyes widened, Kale consumed the spear. Tim screamed warnings. Foreign authority consumption limit approaching. Kale forced it down. The spear vanished. Covered attributes climbed. 41 stared. Kale, there you are. Kale flexed his burned hands. Do not sound proud. Your old self could never resist eating dangerous things. I am starting to dislike him. Everyone did. Orin attacked again. Time Kale did not. He rushed forward. Silent step. One strike toward the ribs. Orin blocked. Kale changed elbow, knee, palm. Attack was redirected. Orin barely moved. Kale felt the difference. Its experience. And had fought beings like him. Maybe his previous incarnation. Kale stepped back. Orin tilted his head. Thinking. Worse. Kale watched the chains. Every time Orin moved, the 7 divine seals tightened. Suppression. They were not only imprisoning him, they were limiting him. Kale could use that. Kale retreated toward the remains of Seraphiel's broken chain. Orin followed. Kale deliberately let a strike graze his shoulder. Pain tore through him. Worth it. Grabbed the broken sun seal from the floor. Dominion activated. The command inside screamed. Kale redirected it. Not at Orin. At the chain already wrapped around him. Strengthened. The golden chain snapped tight. Orin froze. His expression changed. Kale hit him. One punch. Full recovered output. The impact launched Orin through the black gate. Kale followed. The world beyond was enormous. A buried cathedral. Hundreds of chains stretched from walls into a central pit. Orin crashed across the floor. Kale landed. The system displayed a new warning. Host has entered sealed divine core. Multiple stolen authorities detected. Kale looked around. 7 altars. 10 channels of power converging beneath the floor. His heartbeat accelerated. This was not merely a prison. Storage vault. Orin rose slowly. Blood ran from his mouth. Then he laughed better. Kale looked at the altars. What is this? Orin wiped the blood away. The reason Westmere exists. Kale turned. Orin pointed upward. Your 7 thieves built cities over the places they could not destroy. Why human souls stabilized divine seals? Kale's expression went cold. Thousands of people, living above a prison, their existence feeding the structure. Orin walked toward one altar. Temples call it protection. He touched. Every prayer strengthens the cage. Kale thought of the dead maintenance worker, divine essence extracted. The seal is consuming people. When it weakens, how many? Orin shrugged. Kale's jaw tightened. How many? Thousands. Something inside him went very still. Orin saw it. There. What? That expression. Kale looked at him. The sovereign made the same face when he realized what the 7 had done. Kale walked toward the nearest altar, Seraphiel's. Golden sun burned at the center. The system opened. Active divine anchor detected. Function. Maintain prison through regional soul siphoning. Destruction risk severe. Kale folks, what happens if I destroy it? Seal balance destabilization. Westmere survival probability reduced. Kale's hand stopped. Orin smiled faintly. Now you understand. Kale looked at the other 6 altars. Destroying the prison could also kill the city. Leaving it intact meant people continued feeding it. A perfect divine solution. Make every choice disgusting. Orin leaned against a pillar. Kale said nothing. Your predecessor would break it. Then he was careless. Sometimes. Kale activated authority appraisal. He studied the channels. The system revealed the structure piece by piece. 10 anchors, 1 prison, regional soul network, divine siphon. But there was another path, a secondary circuit. Buried beneath the newer seals, Kale followed it. Connected to the central pit, then to Orin, then to something beyond. Godgrave, Asterion, the inheritance. Kale's eyes narrowed. The prison exists before the 7 modified it. Orin stopped smiling. Kale looked at him. You were already sealed. Silence, not by them. Orin's expression hardened. Kale continued. Strengthened it. Orin said nothing. Why? The chamber seemed colder. Kale stepped closer. You said I created you to kill me if I became dangerous. Orin's gold eyes darkened. Care if you failed. No answer, so I sealed you. Orin's chains rattled. Kale understood. The 7 had not created this prison. The last saw. Killing him, the 7 found Orin here and turned the prison into a siphoning machine. Truth layered over truth. No clean heroes. So monsters. Kale almost appreciated the honesty of it. Orin looked away. You ordered me to stop him. Did you? I tried. And Orin's voice became quiet. He won. Then he imprisoned you. Yes, why not kill you? Orin looked at him. Because even then he thought he might need me. Kale almost laughed. That sounds familiar. Orin smiled faintly. You really are annoying. Kale returned to the altar. Understood the structure now. He did not need to destroy the anchor. He needed to cut Seraphiel out of it. Dominion touched the golden command. Ownership. Seraphiel had inserted herself into an older seal. Kale pushed. The altar resisted. The goddess was not present physically, but her authority remained. Kale remembered the slave seal. Growth suppression. Skill siphoning. Interference. Authority restriction. 14 years. Pushed harder. Relinquish. The altar cracked. Seraphiel's command fought. Divine pressure exploded through the cathedral. Kale dropped to one knee. Orin, you will feel that. Good. She will come better. Orin stared. You have changed your mind about hiding. No. Kale stood. Golden fire wrapped his arm. I am changing what she sees. Dominion surged. The command shattered. Seraphiel's sun vanished from the altar. Updated. Divine anchor captured. Regional soul siphoning disconnected from Seraphiel. Prison integrity stabilized through inheritance authority. Orin straightened. Kale felt the new connection. Thousands of faint lights across Westmere not being drained. It. Free. The altar changed. The sun symbol disappeared. An empty circle replaced it. The symbol from the headless. Orin stared. You took the anchor. I redirected to yourself. Temporarily. Orin walked closer. You now control 1/7 of my prison. Kale looked at him. Then behave. Orin laughed so hard he had to lean against the altar. Kale ignored him. The system displayed another message. The regional authority established. Divine masking can now conceal host within controlled region. Kale froze. That changed everything. Inside Westmere, Seraphiel would no longer be searching for him through her own network. The network now answered to Kale. A second message appeared. New false signal projection. Kale smiled. Orin immediately stopped laughing. What? Kale looked upward. Seraphiel is searching for me. I know she expects me to run, probably. Kale opened the network. Golden line spread across his vision. He selected an abandoned gate 300 miles north. Project Divine Signature. The system warned. False signal will resemble host at reduced accuracy. That is enough. Kale activated it. Far north, a pulse of his recovered authority appeared, strong enough to be detected. Weak enough to look like someone hiding badly. Orin stared at him. You are baiting a goddess. Not yet. You just created a false trail. Yes, that is bait. Kale looked at him. Comes bait when she bites. Orin grinned. I missed you. We have established that you did not know me. Details. Kale returned toward the gate. Orin followed until the chain stopped him. The prison pulled tight. Kale looked back. You cannot leave, not while 6 divine anchors remain attached. And the original seal? Orin smiled. That one answers to you. Kale understood the implication. If he eventually claimed all 7 anchors, he could decide whether Orin remained imprisoned. Then stay here. Orin looked offended. Terrible company. I will tell Lucien you said that. Orin froze. What? Kale stopped. You know Lucien Vale? Orin's expression changed completely. Black eyes. Silver hair. Talks too much, yes. Lunatic is alive, unfortunately. Where? Godgrave. Orin looked almost delighted. Of course he is. Kale frowned. What is he? Orin's smile vanished. Do not break his seals. Kale became still. Why? Because the 7 did not put all of them there. That answer followed Kale all the way back to the surface. By the time he reached the black gate, Ronan was waiting. Alone, shield raised, Kale stepped through. Ronan lowered the weapon slightly. Where's the chain thing? Still chained. Good. Mira appeared behind him. She ran forward, dropped herself before reaching Kale. You are alive, apparently. Her eyes moved over the blood on his clothes. What happened? Negotiation. Ronan looked at the shattered gate. Your negotiations are loud. Kale nodded. Fair Mira stared at him, then at the empty circle now glowing faintly over the... That symbol was not there before. No, what did you do? Kale looked toward the staircase. He could already feel new signatures above. Priests. Temple officials. Seraphil's people had arrived early. Pulled his hood up, changed ownership. Mira's eyes narrowed. Kale, we need to leave. Ronan looked upward. Too late, boots echoed down the staircase. Dozens, a priest's voice called. By order of the Sunward Temple, this site is now under divine jurisdiction. Kale recognized the voice. Bishop Holrin. A man who had once ordered Kale to remain inside a collapsing dungeon because Varric had not yet recovered the relic he wanted. Mira stepped closer. You know them too? Kale's silence answered. Bishop Halrin entered the chamber surrounded by temple guards. He looked older, fat, still wearing too much gold. His eyes moved across Ronan. Goal. He did not recognize him. Not yet. Halrin looked at the broken chains. His failed. What happened? Ronan answered. Heal failed. Haran stared at the empty cirques, the altar. Kale said nothing. Haran's gaze moved to him. Kale lowered his head slightly. Me, remove your hood. The words were ordinary, no divine authority. Kale considered refusing, then changed his mind. Pulled the hood down. Haran stared, his face emptied. Go. Mira slowly shifted her grip on the spear. Temple guards raised weapons. Ronan looked at Kale. Affected this eventually. Haran stumbled backward. Kale Arden. Kale met his eyes. Hello, Bishop. One guard whispered. Kale looked at him. I hear that often. Halloran recovered enough to point, seize him. No one moved. Guards looked at one another. Kale stood relaxed, F-rank, torn coat, no visible weapon, but something about him made the order feel wrong. Screamed. Now 3 guards rushed. Kale vanished. Silent step. The first guard sword hit the floor. The second lost his balance. Third felt a hand on his shoulder. Then all 3 were kneeling. No one had seen how. Still stood behind them. He had not drawn blood, had not broken bone, had not revealed even a fraction of what he could do. The chamber went silent. Mira's mouth opened slightly. Gone. Barely. Ronan smiled. What rank are you? Kale looked at him. According to your records, he stepped forward. Frank designated obsolete. Haran backed away. Stripped of divine blessing. You should be powerless. Kale's expression became almost gentle. That was the mistake. Halloran raised his staff. Golden light gathered. Felt Seraphil's authority inside it. Borrowed. Connected. Weak. Perfect. Halloran fired. Kale did not dodge. The golden blast struck his chest. Myra The light disappeared. Not a consume. Updated. Seraphil linked. Authority recovered. Kale kept walking. Halloran stared at the dead staff in his hands. What are you? Kale stopped 1 step away. He could feel every frightened heartbeat in the chamber, every priest, guard, every hunter. This was the first time anyone from Seraphil's world had seen him after the god grave. Not the full reveal. Not even close, just enough. Kale leaned toward Halloran. Tell I remember. Haran swallowed. Kale continued. Tell Varric the sword he is wearing belongs to me. The bishop trembled. And Seraphil? Kale looked toward the ceiling. Far above, across hundreds of miles, the false signal had just been detected. Felt the goddess' attention snap north. She had taken the bait. Kale smiled. Tell her she is looking in the wrong direction. Haran's face collapsed. The system opened. False signal pursuit confirmed. Primary divine target diverted. Kale turned away. Stared at him. Ronan's expression had become something between concern and respect. Above them, temple bells began ringing across Westmere. Not celebration. Alarm. For the first time in centuries, a divine anchor had changed. The first time, prayers offered inside Seraphil's territory no longer strengthened her prison. And for the first time since Kale Arden had been thrown into the god grave, the goddess was not simply afraid he had survived. She knew he was coming. Kale looked at the empty circle glowing over the shattered gate. 1 anchor belonged to him, 6 remained. Stolen power still lived inside Varric and Alira. Lucienne remained sealed beneath the god grave. Orin waited beneath Westmere. And somewhere behind the memory still locked inside Kale's soul was the truth of why 7 gods had once driven 7 knives in the back of a king. The revenge he had imagined was no longer large enough. Destroying Varric would be easy. Breaking Alira would be satisfying. Making Seraphil kneel would not repair what she built. Kale finally understood that the 7 had not merely stolen his past. They had constructed an entire world around the theft. He looked at Mira. Get your team out of the city. Her expression tightened. Why? Because the next time Seraphil comes here, she will not send a projection. Ronan stepped beside them. And what will you do? Kale looked toward the distant floating temple he could not see. His voice was calm. I am going to give her a reason to come herself. Far away, goddess Seraphil descended into a northern ruin following the false trace of Kale's authority. She found nothing. The runaway servant. Only a single symbol burned into the stone. Empty circle. The same symbol that had replaced her son beneath Westmere. Seraphil stared at it. Then the meaning reached her. Kale had not escaped, yet taken territory. Hands began to shake. Behind her, Varric drew Kale's stolen. Sneed's sword. The first time Varric saw pure panic in the eyes of a god. Call the other 6. Varric froze. All of us. Seraphil looked at the empty circle. June. Now hundreds of miles away beneath Westmere, Kale felt 6 distant divine signatures awaken at once. The system burned gold across his vision. 7 divine rulers entering active state. Global authority conflict imminent. Second inheritance threshold available. Kale looked toward the road leading east. Toward the capital. Toward the floating temple. Toward every person who had believed the weakest man in the Sunward Order was already dead. Then the system revealed the condition. Unlock full SSS-Rank authority. Reclaim 1 stolen core from a living siphon host. 2 names appeared. Varric Holt. Alira Dane. Kale's eye settled on the first. The version of Varric he remembered had spent 14 years standing above. The next time they met, that relationship would reverse. Kale pulled his hood over his face. Varric first. Varric Holt never imagined fear would arrive wearing Kale Arden's face. 3 days after the false trail in the northern ruins, the commander of the Sunward Order stood in the capital arena before 20,000 spectators and raised Kale's stolen sword above his head. The crowd roared. Golden banners hung from every tower. Filled the terraces. Hunters from 6 nations had come to witness what the temple called the Ascension Ceremony. Varric called it something else. Coronation. High Priestess Alira stood beside him in white and gold. Her hands were steady. Only Varric noticed how often she looked toward the sky. The 7 divine rulers had not appeared together in centuries. Her symbols burned above the arena. 7 thrones of light, 7 gods watching. And somewhere beneath all that glory, 1 dead F-rank hunter had become the only subject anyone powerful enough to understand the situation was thinking about. Varric lowered the sword. Still nothing? Alira kept smiling for the crowd. Seraphil has not found him. He cannot hide forever. He already hid from her once. Varric's jaw tightened. Do not say that. Why? Because you sound afraid. I finally looked at him. I am. Varric almost laughed. Yes. Her smile remained fixed. You should try it. The crowd chanted Varric's name. He looked toward them. Thousands of ordinary people believed he was the strongest rising hunter of his generation. They believed the weapon in his hand had been granted by Seraphiel. They believed Kale Arden had betrayed the Sunward Order and died under divine judgment. He believed everything the temple had told them. Varric preferred people that way. Simple. Controlled. He raised the sword again. Golden fire traveled along the blade. The crowd erupted. Then the fire went out. Varric froze. The blade turned black, not burned. Empty. A sound passed through the arena. Confusion. Alira stared at the sword. Varric. He tried to force energy into it. Then he heard a voice behind him. You never understood that weapon. Varric stopped breathing. The crowd fell silent one section at a time. First, Kale stood at the edge of the ceremonial platform, black coat. No armor, no visible weapon. Mira stood far behind him near the western gate, and the rest of They had argued with him for an hour before agreeing to remain outside the central platform. Kale had accepted the compromise. Varric stared. For the first time in 14 years, Kale saw the commander without the confidence borrowed from rank, title, and divine approval. Varric looked small, not physically. Kale, the name traveled through the arena. Hers spread, dead, traitor. Possible. Alira's face had gone completely white. Kale looked at her once. That was enough. She stepped backward. Varric recovered. Gohan moved immediately. Kale smiled faintly. Varric shouted, "Seize him." Temple Knights rushed the platform. Kale continued walking. The first knight swung. Kale leaned aside. The blade missed. Kale touched the knight's wrist. The weapon dropped. Second knight, one step. One elbow. Down third. Fourth. Fifth. Kale never stopped walking. Bodies fell around him without blood. The crowd became silent. Varric's face tightened. You think this proves something? Kale stopped 10 feet away. No, he looked at the sword, taking that back will. Varric laughed. Returned his expression. There it was. Something he understood. Possession. Strength. A challenge. You want it? Kale looked at him. It was mine. It belongs to whoever can keep it. Varric raised the blade. Golden fire returned. Not from the sword. From Varric. Kale could see the stolen authority inside it. Threads. Layers. 14 years of people woven into Varric. Combat growth. His speed. His divine resistance. Parts of silent step. Fragments of Kale's instincts. Even the way Varric shifted his weight before striking came from training sessions Kale no longer remembered until the system restored. Varric had built his legend from stolen pieces, and now he believed those pieces belonged to him. Come take it. Barely blocked. The impact threw him across the platform. The crowd gasped. Varric caught himself. His eyes widened. Kale stood where he had been. No aura, no weapon, no visible strain. Cast. Much faster than any normal B-rank hunter. Sword cut toward Kale's throat. Kale stepped inside the arc, palm against Varric's elbow. Shoulder into chest. Varric lost balance. Kale took the sword. 1 second it was in Varric's hand. The next it stared at his empty fingers. Kale looked at the blade. The weapon trembled. Silver light moved through it. The sword recognized him. Old inscriptions appeared along the edge. He had never seen them. Kale had. He had forged the first version of the technique himself. He had designed the energy channels. He had chosen the balance. Varric had carried it for years and never once understood why the weapon responded so well to him. Because it had been built around Kale. The sword was not returning to a master. It was returning home. Kale looked up. Varric's face was red. Give it back. Kale almost laughed. That sentence is incredible. Varric's expression stood. Power erupted from him. The platform cracked. Spectators screamed. Temple Bear activated around the arena. Lyra moved away. What was coming? Varric lunged. This time he used everything. Divine reinforcement, stole movement, sunward combat arts. A technique Kale recognized as another copy. Radiant Severick had claimed to create it during the Red Gate campaign. Kale had developed the original version while trapped alone inside a dungeon for 9 days. Varric swung. Kale raised the gene. The two energies met. Varric's technique split apart. Expression collapsed. Kale whispered mine. He activated skill restoration to open the connection between them. Varric screamed. Golden threads tore from his body. The crowd saw them of strands as years of stolen power. Kale. Varric fell to his knees. His muscles contracted. Gara collapsed. His face not age. Without the stolen reinforcement, Varric looked like what he had always been. A talented hunter. Strong, experienced, but nowhere near the monster the world believed him to be. Him burned across Kale's vision. Primary siphon host connected. Stolen recovery beginning. Recovered attributes surged. 43 comes 52%. Varric clawed at his chest. Go. Kale watched. 61%. Divine network around the arena shook. Seraphiel reacted from above. A command descended. Stop. The word hit Kale. Dominion answered. No. Command broke. The 7 thrones of light flickered. The audience saw that too. Panic moved through the priests. Kale continued. 60. Then the system. Stolen core restored. Full SSS rank authority unlocked. The world went quiet. Not metaphor. Sound vanished. Wind stopped. Banners froze. Dust hung motionless over the broken platform. Kale felt the restored power settle in him. Not rage. The suppression that had defined his entire adult life disappeared. For 14 years, the world had measured him while someone pressed a hand over the scale. Now that hand was gone. The system updated. Human classification threshold reached. True authority remains partially sealed. Kale looked at Varric. The commander stared upward from his knees. No, his voice shook. That is mine. Kale's expression did not change. Varric lunged with a hidden dagger. Kale caught his wrist. No effort. Varric pushed. Nothing. Kale looked at him. 14 years. Varric's eyes filled with panic. You would have wished. Kale came still. Varric mistook the silence for permission. You were weak. Kale's grip tightened. You do sassy. Another fraction. Bone cracked. Varric gasped. Dane leaned closer. No. His voice stayed quiet. I had trust. Varric stopped. Kale released him. The commander collapsed, not dead. Kale had considered killing him many times, in the Godgrave, in Westmere. On the road to the capital, he had imagined the moment. A sword through Varric's. A public execution, a slow punishment. None of those felt right. Varric had built his identity around being admired, around superiority, around carrying power everyone believed was his. Death would end his humiliation too quickly. Kale turned toward the audience. Look at him. Thousands of people stared. Varric flinched. That is Commander Varric Holt. No borrowed aura, no stolen core, no divine lie protecting him. Varric looked up. Shut up. Kale ignored him. This is what he was before he took what belonged to someone else. The crowd began whispering. Varric's name changed inside those whispers.
Not hero.
Kale sensed it. She ran toward the eastern gate. Silent step. Kale appeared in front of her. She stopped so hard her shoes scraped. For the first time since he was 16, Kale stood face to face with the woman who had taught him to read divine script. Alira's eyes filled with tears. Kale hated how familiar the expression was. He used tears before, when recruits died, when missions failed. When Kale asked why his memories sometimes felt incomplete, she had always known what face to wear. He said nothing. To understand. Her mouth closed. Kale looked at her. You do. Lyra's voice trembled. I was ordered. Yes, Seraphil would have killed me. Maybe I had no choice. Kale almost smiled. There it is. What? The sentence everyone uses when they want forgiveness without responsibility. Lyra stared. I cared about you. Kale's expression hardened. Do not. I did. You entered my mind. I protected you. You stole my memories. Because Seraphil demanded it, you copied my skills. Because Varric needed them, you watched me fail rank tests you knew were false. Lyra's tears fell. I was trying to keep you alive. Kale looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded once. You told yourself. Her face crumpled. Kale touched her forehead. Lyra panicked. Skill restoration activated. The connection opened. Memories tore back into Kale. Hundreds, thousands, training, search, private thoughts, combat theories, conversations, pieces of himself Lyra had removed so gradually he never realized anything was missing. Kale staggered. Lyra screamed. The system stable. Secondary siphon host connected. Memory restoration beginning. Kale saw Lyra standing beside his unconscious body. He heard Varric ask whether Kale would notice. He heard her say no. Terror feel increased the seals. He's Solaris Cyclone. Only once. Then another memory. Still at 20. Laughing with Lyra after surviving his first dead gate, she had handed him food. Told her he wanted to build a hunter school one day. Not for elite ranks, for support hunters. People like him. People ignored by temples and guilds. That was the thing he wanted before revenge existed. The memory had been stolen. Kale opened his eyes. Lyra. Alive. Her divine aura gone. Kale looked down. You took that too. She barely understood. What? My future. Her lips trembled. Kale turned away. You can keep your life. Lyra stared. Why? Kale stopped. Because you were going to spend it remembering exactly what you did. The 7 thrones above the arena ignited. Everyone looked up. Seraphil appeared first. Gun. A projection this time. Golden wings spread across the goddess descended surrounded by divine fire. 6 other figures emerged behind her. The blue crowned god. Silver moon goddess. The thorn-eyed judge. 3 others Kale recognized from and the final one an old mare no crown at all. 7. The crowd fell to its knees. Even hunters. Even nobles. Mira remained standing stood beside her. Kale noticed. So did Seraphil. The goddess landed on the ruined. You moved over Varric, then Lyra, then Kale. You ruined them. Kale looked at her. No, Seraphil's jaw tightened. I returned what they stole. The blue-crowned god stepped forward. His voice shook the arena. Kale felt divine command inside it. Dominion resisted automatically. God's eyes narrowed. So it is true. Seraphil kept watching Kale. You should have died. Kale rested the sword against his shoulder. Keep saying that. The silver moon goddess looked at Seraphil. You assured us the vessel was controlled. He was. Kale almost laughed. Seraphil ignored him. Seal was intact. The thorn-eyed judge looked toward Kale, then someone's interfered. Kale said the system did. All 7 became still. The old man without a crown finally looked interested. You possess the inheritance interface. Kale looked at him. Apparently, Seraphil's voice sharpened. Do not answer him. Kale glanced at her. Something flashed behind her eyes. The blue-crowned god raised his hand. Killed him. Divine energy gathered. The sky darkened. Thousands of spectators screamed. Kale did not move. A black gate opened behind the 7 gods. Orin stepped through. The arena became silent again. The Throne Eater wore only 3 chains now. Kale had reclaimed Seraphil's anchor in Westmere. During the journey east, the system had mapped 2 more hidden anchors. Ronan's contacts destroyed the human siphon routes. Lucian guided Cole through ancient pathways from the god. One by one, the 7's control weakened. Orin smiled at the divine rulers. I missed you. The blue-crowned god's face cannot leave the prison. Orin looked at Kale. Apparently management changed. Seraphil stepped backward. Then another figure emerged from the gate. Silver hair, black eyes, long coat. Vale walked into the arena and looked around. So this is what the capital became. Lyra stared. Varric looked confused. Ronan laughed under his breath. Mira whispered. Who is that? Kale answered without looking away from Seraphil. Complicated. Lucian saw the 7 gods. No, his still ugly. The thorn-eyed judge raised both hands. Hundreds of black symbols ignited across Lucian's body. He dropped one knee. Kale felt every command. Remain. Kneel. Forget. Press. Do not awaken. Orin had warned him. Not all the seals belonged to the 7. Kale had discovered the truth during the road to the capital. The oldest seals on Lucian came from Kale's previous incarnation. Not because Lucian was an enemy, because Lucian carried something, a fragment. Authority too dangerous to remain in the throne. Kale walked toward him. Seraphil shouted. Do not touch him. Kale placed one hand on Lucian's shoulder. Dominion opened. The 7 newer seals appeared. Kale broke them. 1, 2. Power exploded from Lucian. The remaining ancient marks stayed intact. His black eyes turned silver. The system reacted. Sword, identity recognized. Lucian Vale, keeper of the final sovereign fragment. Seraphil screamed, kill them. The 7 attacked. The arena disappeared beneath divine light. Kale raised one hand. Dominion expanded. The blast stopped. Not all of it. His arm shook. Blood ran from his finger. Restored to SSS rank. He could not simply overpower 7 divine rulers. Limitless power would have made the moment boring. Kale smiled. Seraphil saw it. Face tightened. You are losing. Yes. The old man without a crown looked toward the sky. Then his expression changed. Understood first. No. Kale looked at him. Finally. Golden lines appeared across the entire capital. Seraphil's at work. The people of Westmere had stopped feeding the divine anchors. Other cities, then 5, then 12. Joe and Ronan not traveled east merely as witnesses. They had carried proof, records from the buried prisons, soul siphon diagrams, temple orders. Alira's hidden archive stolen before she could destroy them. The truth had spread faster than Seraphil could silence it. People were not praying. 7 gods had built their stolen thrones on worship, on submission, on borrowed soul. Whom millions were questioning, doubting, refusing. Gooden's authority flickered. Kale pushed. Their combined blast broke apart. Thorin laughed. That is why they hated you. The blue-crowned god turned toward the crowd. Kneel. Many did not. The god's face changed. Silver light flowed from his eyes. The world is done kneeling. The thorn-eyed judge attacked him. Lucian caught the strike. The arena cracked and lunged at the blue-crowned god. Black light swallowed blue flame. Silver moon goddess turned toward Kale. You will destroy the balance. Kale blocked her blade. What balance? The gates, the dungeons, the lower realm. Without us, humanity dies. Kale pushed her back. Then you should have protected it without stealing from it. Seraphil appeared behind him. A golden spear pierced Kale's side. Mira screamed from the edge of the arena. Kale looked down. Blood, real damage. Kale smiled. You are still mortal. Kale grabbed the spear. Divine consumption activated. Smile vanished. Kale pulled. The weapon dissolved. Power entered him. The wound remained. The system warned. Consumption threshold approaching. Kale ignored it. Seraphil attacked again. Kale blocked. Sword against divine blade. The impact split the platform. They moved beyond normal human sight. Golden strikes. Seraphil used techniques Kale had once believed no mortal could. Pieces, stolen pieces, some from him. Caints, some from gods whose bones lay beneath the god grave. Seraphil had never created anything. Collected, copied, claimed. Kale saw the pattern. He stopped defending. Seraphil's blade cut his shoulder, then his leg, then his side. She smiled. Cannot beat me. Kale watched her footwork. One pattern repeated every seventh exchange. Correction, a habit. Power made people careless. He struck. Kale stepped inside. Her eyes widened. He caught her wrist. Dominion activated. Her weapon vanished. Kale struck her chest, not with the sword. Palm. The slave seal symbol appeared. Seraphil screamed. Kale had carried her brand for 14 years. The system had memorized it. Every command, every channel, every theft route. Now the same structure wrapped around her divine oppression. Authority restriction. Seraphil stared at him. Kale's voice was quiet, something familiar. She attacked with raw power. Kale tightened the seal. Her aura collapsed, not completely enough. Goddess fell to one knee. The entire capital gasped. Seraphil looked up. Hatred filled her face. I made you. Kale shook his head. You found me. I gave you purpose. You gave me chains. I gave you 14 years. Kale stared. The old man without a crown shouted. Seraphil. Too late. Kale activated divine consumption. Not on her life. On the stolen authority inside the system. Oh, hundreds of divine fragments appeared. Saints, ancient rulers, dead gods. Kale pulled. Kale screamed. The sky turned white. One authority left. Yusuf. Power returned to old seals. Kali. Buried graves. Some fragments entered. Others passed through him and disappeared toward rightful descendants. The system was not making him owner of everything. It was restoring. Seraphil weakened. Her perfect divine form changed. Golden hair darkened. The glow left her eyes. For the first time, Kale saw what she looked like without stolen authority. Human. Seraphil stared her hands. No, Kale released her. She remained kneeling. Goddess who had pushed him into the god grave looked up from below. The reversal felt smaller than he expected. Satisfied, but not enough to define everything. Behind them, Orin had the blue-crowned god pinned against a broken throne of light. Lucian fought the thorn-eyed judge. Ronan and Mira evacuated civilians from the collapsing terraces. The other divine rulers were retreating. The old man shouted. Kale turned.
Seraphil, desperate.
Exactly as he expected. She reached into her chest. Crystal appeared. Arena darkened and stopped laughing. Lucian looked. Kale, the system screamed. Forbidden cord detected. Original sovereign authority. Kale stared. Seraphil smiled through blood. You wanted your throne? She crushed the crystal. Take it. Reality broke. The sky opened. Not into clouds, into the god grave. The buried city appeared above the cap. Corpses, broken thrones. A battlefield layered over the living world. The original sovereign authority flooded toward Kale. Too much. The system warned. Organization insufficient. Full inheritance may overwrite current identity. Kale understood. Seraphil had saved one final stolen fragment, not to force back into him. If Kale accepted all of it at once, the previous sovereign might return. Kale Arden might. Kale laughed. Choose the power descended, remain weak, or become him. Kale looked at the black throne forming above the arena. Crashed into him. Divine creation. Heaven servants. Betrayal. Rape. The old sovereign's voice filled his mind. Take the throne. Kale dropped to one knee. Platform. Kale. Ronan grabbed her. Do not. Kale barely heard them. Tim flickered. Identity conflict. Kale Arden. Last sovereign of heaven. Integration required. Asturian's voice returned from memory. Do not become. Lucian's ancient seals began glowing. Keeper of the final sovereign fragment. Kale understood. Previous sovereign had known this might happen. He had divided himself, not because he wanted resurrection. He feared it. Kale looked at Lucian. Release it. Lucian froze. You know what that means? Yes. No. Lucian fought the thorn-eyed judge back. If I release this fragment, you may not survive. Kale smiled faintly. I have heard that before. Lucian stared. Then laughed once. Still annoying. He placed a hand over his chest. The oldest seal crossed the arena. It entered Kale. Not power. A memory. The last sovereign standing before Lucian centuries ago. Bleeding. Different face. Same eyes. If I return, the sovereign had said, do not let me inherit myself blindly. Lucian frowned. What should I give you? A choice. The memory ended. Kale opened his eyes. Tim stabilized. A final option appeared. Full sovereign resurrection available. Alternative. Kale chose instantly. Dissolve. Seraphil's smile vanished. Cracked. Power flooded outward, not into Kale alone. Divine authority broke into millions of fragments. The old system of 7 stolen thrones collapsed. Sky shook. The remaining divine rulers screamed as their borrowed connections vanished. Orin released the blue-crowned god. Durance left to devour. Lucy stood silently. Seraphil crawled toward Kale. What have you done? Kale looked at the dissolving throne. Ended it. You destroyed your own authority. Yes, you could have ruled everything. Kale looked at her. I remember what happened last time. The final pieces of the throne disappeared. Some change. No divine title. No sovereign crown. No illegitimate hierarchy. Only Kale. His power remained. SSS-Rank. Restored skills. Dominion. But no absolute throne above humanity. Seraphil stared. You Kale almost. You know how it feels. The remaining 6 rulers fled, not as gods, as powerful beings stripped of the worship network that made them untouchable. Orin watched them. Should I follow? Kale looked at him. Orin frowned. Why not? They will answer to the people they ruled. Less dramatic, more useful. Lucian walked over. What happens to me? Kale looked at the remaining seals on his body. Most were gone. Few ancient ones remained. Your choice, blink, no prison? No commando. Lucian looked genuinely confused. Kale understood. Freedom felt strange when captivity lasted centuries. Mira approached. Blood covered one side of her armor. Kale immediately looked at the wound. Yours? No. Terrible. Kale laughed. A real laugh. Small. Exhausted. I have looked worse. Mira smiled. Still using that. It works. Ronan joined them. Behind him, people slowly returned to the arena. No one knew whether to kneel. Kale noticed. Across thousands of faces, hunters, priests, children, people raised inside a world where gods always stood above. Kale raised one hand. Several immediately dropped to their knees. His expression changed. Dan, the command carried no dominion, no divine force. Just people looked at one another, then stood one by. Kale looked toward the broken temple. The golden symbol of Seraphil had split down the middle. Varric remained on the ruined platform, powerless compared to what he had been. Alira sat near. Either looked at Kale, they would face human courts, human witness, human records. No goddess would erase the evidence. No divine order would rewrite the. That was enough. Weeks later, the floating temple descended, not crashed. Tended. Without Seraphil's authority holding it above the capital, engineers and hunters guided it safely to the plains outside the city. The 7 great temples lost control of hunter licensing. Came public. Investigations uncovered prisons beneath its major cities. Soul science networks were dismantled. Hundreds of families learned what had happened to missing relatives. The truth hurt. Kale refused to hide it. Trial lasted months. He confessed only after Alira testified. After reading the memory records Kale recovered from the system. Gave divine punishment. That mattered. People sentenced them. Varric lost his titles, wealth, and hunter privileges. The man who had built his life around being seen spent the rest of it known for exactly what he had done. Alira surrendered every temple archive she could act. Cooperation reduced her sentence. Kale did not object. Revenge had stopped being the same thing as justice somewhere beneath West. Fairfield disappeared after the arena, not escaped. Disappeared from public. Without stolen authority, she was no longer immortal. Years later, travelers claimed a woman matching her description lived quietly near the ruins of an abandoned temple. Kale never checked. He did not need to. Orin became a problem almost immediately. Freedom, food, dogs. Street performers, arguments. He once consumed an enchanted sign because he claimed it was in. Hell made him pay for it. Lucien became worse. Within 6 months, the Black Saint Royal call it an academy. He called it a place where idiots learn not to die. Enrollment tripled. Ira became the first field captain of the new independent hunter network. She hated the title. Ronan made sure everyone used it. Joe kept his old promise. The one Alira had stolen from his memory. He built a not for elite hunters. Support operative. Interpreters. Scouts. Low-rank hunters. People whose work once disappeared beneath someone else's. Above the entrance was no divine symbol. Only an empty circle. Not a reminder. Power did not need worship to matter. Kale never became a king. SSS-Rank became public eventually. The reaction was exactly as annoying as he expected. Nations, guilds sent contracts, former priests sent apologies. Kale ignored most, still entered dungeons, still translated ruins, still walked first when the path ahead looked dangerous. But now people walked beside him because they chose to. Years after the fall of the Seven Thrones, Kale returned to the Godgrave. Astarion waited in the darkness. The silver eyes opened. You returned. Kale smiled. I said I would. You said no such thing. Then I thought it. Astarion laughed. Kale walked deeper into the buried city. The old throne room was empty. No inheritance waited. No sovereign identity slept inside him. The system remained, but even it had changed. No command to restore rightful authority. Targalus, no divine owner. Just tools, skills, information, choices. Tyrion watched him. You destroyed the throne. Yes, you could have ruled. I know. Do you regret it? Kale thought about Varric kneeling. Alira crying. Fairfield stripped of borrowed light. Mira arguing with contractors at the school. Ronan teaching recruits how to survive shield collapse. Lucian terrifying students. Orin discovering spicy food and declaring war on a restaurant. Kale looked at the headless statue. Tyrion became quiet. Then the ancient guardian lowered its head, not submission. Fact. You are not him. Kale looked at the silver eyes. No Astarion raised its head again. Kale turned toward the exit. The Godgrave no longer felt like a tomb. It felt like history. Something that mattered. Something that could teach. But not something that had to decide the future. The entrance. Kale stopped. Sunlight waited beyond the ruins. For 14 years he had believed power would finally make people see him. Then he had learned something better. Being seen by the wrong people was never the goal. Choosing what to do when no one could force him anymore was. Kale stepped into the light. No goddess waited above him. No chain followed. No stolen name sat beneath someone else's victory. Only the road home. And for the first time in more than one lifetime, Kale Arden walked it as nothing but himself.